pieces in my life go away with you. Forever in my mind, only you. The pieces in my life run away with you. You're my first love. You're my first love. You're my first love. You're my first love.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this, the final round of the 2013 Thrustmaster Formula Sim Racing World Series. And this is it, folks. This is the big one. It's crunch time. The final round of the championship at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache in Interlagos, Sao Paulo, Brazil, where one of two men will walk away tonight with the World Series title. In one corner, we have Rob van Starkenberg, the current championship leader, looking to make it Precision's fourth consecutive World Series title. In the other corner, we have the reigning World Trophy champion, or current at least, Peter Burlack. Of course, he has been one of the most in-form man for the second half of the season, although Van Starkenberg has won the past two races, and he comes into this final round with a 10-point lead. Effectively, whoever wins this race tonight wins the championship. So, effectively, but there are other intricacies to where drivers can finish. Basically, to work it out, Burlack can't afford to finish any lower than 5th position. Anything 6th or behind, and Van Starkenberg is pretty much guaranteed to be champion. So there's a lot of intricacies that we'll get into in a little while, but still, we're soaking up this atmosphere, this kind of end-of-term atmosphere here for the World Series, and we're kind of winding down the final races here for the Formula Sim Racing in general. But tonight we kick off the festivities the only way we know how. The best place for a party, of course, it is Brazil. And of course we're here for this final round. It's set to be a thriller. Scott Woodwiss here as always, and alongside me in the commentary box is not Lewis McGlade, because unfortunately this weekend is his last weekend with FSR, but in his place we have the magnificent Mr. Matt Hartley.
Well, thank you very much there, Scott, and it is a shame to see Lewis leaving FSR, but of course we wish him all the best in how he goes into the future. And you said that we get this feeling, this feeling around here right now, and I think it's pressure. You can just feel it in the air, as this is what the whole season comes down to. All of those hours, and both drivers, as you said, Peter Burlack and Rob van Starkenberg, can win the title. It is in their own hands, which is what everybody always wants coming into the last round. Van Starkenberg has an advantage, but if Burlack wins the race, then he is the champion as well. So both drivers know that they can win it in their own hands, which is always a nice place to be.
Certainly is, and let's just lay this out for you then. We're in the middle of Q1 at the moment. We've got about 4.5 minutes left to go, and it is in fact Peter Burlack who has drawn first blood at the moment, as he has got provisional pole position, or the fastest time at least for Q1, because of course we are running Q2 as well. Zoltan Schutte, very surprising driver up there in second place. He's come on strong in the second half of the season as well. He is going to be second currently. Rob van Starkenberg, the other championship rival, down in third. He's about 3/10 off Peter Burlack's fastest time. And up there in fourth is Cyril Vermuller for GT Omega. And what's intriguing, we're looking at this in the field. It's a very thin field out there today. There's only about 12 cars I can see that have actually turned up who are looking to race today. I know the field was very thin in itself because there's only supposed to be 12, I think I saw 17 that were registered, but only about 13 or 14 that were actually confirmed they were going to be attending. So we haven't got a second car for either Precision or for Twister, which means there's no support from Martin Gosby or Edouard Malorca, which is quite unusual. But also no Nick Rowland either, because of course GT Omega are up there as well, but he has confirmed his participation, so maybe Nick will turn up possibly in Q2 and maybe start from the back of the grid somewhere. He's not here yet. If he does turn up in the next 3.5 minutes, he'll have to get out and bolt it, bang a lap pretty quickly, but he's not here at the moment, so it looks like we're going to have a very thin field for today's race, which means we can fully focus on the championship. Now, before the end of this... Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about that thin field point of view. That might not be a bad thing if you're leading the championship. I mean, you kind of want as little cars as possible, but for Burlack, it's not so much a big deal. If the gap was like 30 points, I think it makes a much bigger deal, because then you want to kind of have the help of other people. Like we said, it's in both drivers' hands, so they'll be happy about that. And the question is, who wants to play spoiler today?
Well, there's a few people that could do it. Possibly Zoltan Schutte and Silver Vermula seem to be the main people up for that title role. Also Bicross, the positive team, looking pretty strong today. So they've got 4 of their cars up in the top 10. What is, again, as we said, a very thin field. David Franco, the quickest of them. Of course, we've got Alex Diaz, Adrian Rodriguez, and also Santiago Niza, all in the top 10. And they're split at the moment by Antonio Collarets in 8th for Venus Project Racing and Eros Masculi 9th for Bashkara. The guys just outside of that are Luka Ostakovic in the 2nd Venus Project Racing car and Todor Vasilev in the one and only Crown 7 Netrex Tradition car. And that's the Netrex Livery car with the green accents to it, the green wing mirrors and the green wings and the green detailing. Because of course Netrex have 3 different cars in their stable. They have the Works team, which is being driven, their Works car being driven by Crown 7 Netrex, of course, Zoltan Schutte. Then we have the Academy cars, which are bright yellow, the bright yellow accents, and then of course it's the Tradition cars, which are green. 1 minute 50 left to go. We're also waiting for the end of Q1. Quickly going to just lay out how the championship stands coming into the final round of the championship. This is how the final race here. This is how they go into it. This is how it stands. Rob van Starkenburg has a 10-point advantage over Peter Burlack at this point, due to the fact he has won the last couple of races. It's very simple. Burlack wins, he's champion. If van Starkenburg wins, he's champion. Looking at the different intricacies, effectively, Burlack can't finish any lower than 5th, because if he finishes 6th, then there's every possibility that Van Starkenburg could have a bad race. But technically, if you've got less than 12 cars, it kind of takes it out of it, really. It takes 5th position out of the equation in some cases, so that's kind of nullified that. But effectively, if, for example, there were 13 cars racing, everyone from 13th downwards gets 10 points. So it's kind of like a NASCAR sort of like everyone who turns up and actually finishes gets points, basically. 13th or lower gives you 10 points regardless of where you are in that kind of lower category. Now, how the points work in World Series is that you get 20 points for 5th place, but 18 points for 6th. So, with the gap being 10 points, effectively, Burlack needs to score 20 points or more, 5th place, if Van Starkenburg was to finish in 13th or lower, which means it would be 10 points, which means a 10-point advantage, which means he'd be level on points at the end of that, but Burlack would win because he had more victories. Effectively, it's more on Burlack. Burlack's got a much narrower window of where he can finish. He can only really afford to finish in the top 5. Anything lower than that, and his chances are realistically over. So, of course, Burlack's showing enough pace at the moment to be confidently going for the race victory as the seconds tick down to the end of Q1. And Burlack is on a lower lap, it looks like, as is Rob van Starkenburg. And I think Silver Vermula is going out, but he's going to run out of time because the clock is just about to switch down. Now the flag is out, so that's kind of a wasted run there for Vermula. But it's pretty intriguing to see how this is going to play out. I think the pressure's a bit more on Burlack than it is on Van Starkenburg, because Van Starkenburg can kind of sit back and worry so much about where he needs to finish. He's got a wider range of positions where he can finish. It's all on where Burlack is able to end up that could make the difference.
It could, yeah, but the other thing to look at is that if Van Starkenburg starts looking backwards at any point, Burlack just has to look forwards, so that's a good thing for him. And another thing to mention as well is that if Burlack comes 2nd, Van Starkenburg comes 3rd, Burlack wins the title because he has the more wins, so that is another way that this can end if they come 2nd and 3rd. We're in Q1, like you said, the zeros are on the board. I'm watching Luka Oslakovic, who is P11, Mr. Bubble, and he's trying to come into the pit lane to completely ruin what I was about to say.
Well, the times look pretty competitive. In fact, the top 12, because we've only got 12 cars qualifying for tonight's race, which is a little bit disappointing. I was hoping we'd have a bigger turnout for the final race, but it doesn't seem to be the case. As Cyril Vermeulen flies to the pit entry and almost hits the central reservation before he flies in towards his pit box. But yeah, very disappointed. We've got a very thin on the ground field tonight. 12 cars, it seems. Whether or not any more cars will head in to the end of the after Q2, we're not sure. But if that is the case, then that'd be quite nice to see a bigger field other than 12 cars. It'll make things a bit more easier, as you said, for the likes of Berlak and Van Starkenberg, because it's less traffic to deal with, and the fact that it's a pretty competitive field. In fact, there's only 1.3 seconds separating first to 12th. So it's not as if they're going to be running into too much traffic, I don't think, which is going to be good. It will allow at least us to focus, both the drivers and us, of course, to focus mainly on that championship battle. But I think the likes of Juti and Vermeulen are definitely going to be the proverbial cats amongst the pigeons tonight.
Yeah, and there's one key time difference, which is 109.2 in Q1 for Berlak, 109.6 for Van Starkenberg. Not something you want to see if you're on the Precision Motorsports team. They would probably rather have Zoltan Suti run away with the win if Van Starkenberg can't do that. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, we don't want any contact at turn 1 or anything like that. That's not how we want the championship to be decided. Pretty much we would like the winner of this race to be the champion, so that way we have everything to play for.
Everything to play for indeed, and we're just waiting for the few cars to come out. The red light is currently on. We've got Eros Mascudi and Cyril Vermeulen at the end. Green light is on, and the 10-minute session, the final 10-minute qualifying session for 2013 in the World Series is underway. And as I said, Eros Mascudi and Cyril Vermeulen practically running nose to tail as they head out for their lap, and it's pretty simple how this all works out. But it's a 5-minute session, isn't it? What am I talking about? Come on, Scott, you've been doing it a whole season. You forget how long the qualifying sessions are Q2. Come on, get it together. It must be end of the season. Vermeulen, effectively how this works, it's a 5-minute session. Each driver gets one single flying lap, and that's it. They have to get it done. If not, if they mess up on their qualifying lap, so be it. If they make a mistake, if they spin off, if they make contact, doesn't matter. So Vermeulen and Mascudi are looking to strike as much clean track as possible. Van Starkenberg is out with Berlak right behind him. That should be pretty intriguing to see how those two shake out on their qualifying laps.
Mind games.
Could be mind games. Could be Berlak just getting into the head possibly of Van Starkenberg here as he chases him down, of course, and will continue to hunt him down until the last minute. And how that's going to play out, we'll have to wait and see. First few times, of course, will come through, I'm sure, pretty soon. Of course, the first few cars can across the line to start his lap is going to be Cyril Vermeulen. Through he comes, and he starts his lap with Mascudi a few seconds behind. So into the centre S then, all lock up into turn 1. But he managed to get it sorted out, and he's using all the curves. Now through the curve of the Sol, long left-hander takes you onto the Retro Aposta, the back straight. Plenty of chances for overtaking and slipstreaming down here towards the Decido do Lago. A tricky third gear left-hander. Descends downhill and then starts to come a bit more uphill. Levels out in the second part. And out towards Ferradura and Larangina. It's actually a 2-part corner. There's the first apex. And then the second apex is right there. And now we come into the infield section here. Big lock up again on the inside. And into Pinheirino. Slightly off camber, downhill left-hander. Then starts to rise once again. Fantastic elevation changes here. Another lock up into Bico de Pato. Another very tough corner, second gear. And now through Mergullo. Again plunging downhill to the end of the second sector. And out towards Yuncao junction corner. Very tricky corner there, almost 90 degrees in some cases. And then the climb back up the hill. And out towards Bancadas, which is the small kink back onto the pit straight. And Vermeulen will set the first benchmark here. And what is he going to be able to achieve? He goes up to the top with a 1 minute 9.6. Decent time, pretty much matched Van Starkenberg's time in Q1. But at the moment, Berlak is up in sector 1.
Yeah, Berlak did a 16.9 and then a 36.3. Van Starkenberg 17.0, 36.3. So the 10th in it was in the first sector. So we're going to come down now. The championship battle, the final qualifying in the World Series. Van Starkenberg is only just a little bit up on Vermeulen, coming into this long stretch on the final straight. So we'll see. He'll post a time and Berlak will post a time right behind Van Starkenberg. So Van Starkenberg does his lap time and it's going to be 109, not enough. Oh, it is 109.6. It was very close.
So not as quick as his Q1 time, but I'm sure that Van Starkenberg. Is Berlak? Where's Berlak? Where's he popped in? Sorry, I didn't catch it on my screen.
He saw it. He did it. He did a 4, a 109. So Berlak has managed to get it, He beat Van Starkenberg out and beat Verdmuller out.
Let's see, Masculi has done... Times haven't registered up on my screen, so it's possibly there's a bit of lag or not, but Juicy's quickly going out to start his lap, and also Adrian Rodriguez and David Franco, and Alex Diaz is out there as well. I think he's on lap at the moment. Let's have a look if I can see on my screen. He's not as far as I can see. So, a few guys still out there, but how long is left in the session? There's only 1 minute 16, so he will get... So these guys, I think, will just... Well, they will get around to start their lap, just about. But... that's intriguing. So the championship protagonists for the moment are on the front row, but don't count out Zoltan Schutte because he was up there mixing it with those guys. So that could be pretty key. But these Bicross positive, these positive boys, good to see them all up. Most of them up in the top 10. It's a nice little confidence boost for them to take into the winter.
It is, yeah. But I think that pole position lap that might give Schutte just a little bit of a taste in his mouth here, because in practice Schutte beat that time. Schutte did a 109.3, so Schutte knows now Berlek didn't manage to get his 2, so we'll see whether Zoltan Schutte can play spoiler. He's coming across the line to start his lap at Brazil Interlagos. We come into the first turn, a huge drop, everybody locks up into this corner. Just have to hit the first apex, line up the second apex, easy roll through turn 3, and then we're going to come up through this section now, and we'll see pretty quickly how his first sector time fares. It's down quite a lot, 17-0. He's over a 10th down. So Zoltan Schutte has to find something through these next 2 sectors.
Let's hope so. And he's now heading up towards into Lamborghini and then up towards the braking zone here. Very difficult to get the car stopped. He's only down by a 10th or so, so at the moment this will put him, I believe, on the... If he stays like this, it will put him, I think, roughly about on the front row. If he can split Van Starkenberg, that will, of course, give an advantage to Berlak. So, heading now through Magullo. And has he found even more time in the second sector? The answer is, he hasn't. He's lost time, so he's down by 4 tenths. So he won't get on the front row unless there's a super final sector and somehow got himself some straight line speed. But I don't think he'll be able to find it. So Zoltan Schutte then heads towards the line to finish his final qualifying lap, I believe, of 2013. And where does it put him? It's a 1 minute 9.999. It's pretty close. You've got, and that puts him to P4. So looks as though it is going to be a few more cars coming across the line. Rodriguez is only 3 tenths on. This is going to be a great time for Rodriguez. Up across the line he comes. 1 minute 9. Wow. He goes 4th. Great job from Adrian Rodriguez. 4th place on the grid. And I think Positive will be very happy with that one. Very positive indeed. 8th place for Antonio Collarets. And a few more other guys in boarding laps. Eros Mascui did his time as well. And I think we actually have a grid. So, as thin as it is, we can go through it. So actually the pole goes to Peter Berlak, and that's crucial. That could be an advantage. But championship rival Rob Van Starkenberg is alongside him on the front row. Then GT Omega. At least some backup for Rob Van Starkenberg at least. 3rd place for Cyril Vermeulen. Adrian Rodriguez with a solid lap time in the final session to get 4th, just ahead of Zoltan Schutte. Great performance from the Positive Sim Racing guys. Then we've got Schutte 5th and Alex Diaz in 6th. Then we've got Eros Mascudi 7th, Antonio Collarets 8th, and then David Franco 9th and Santiago Niza in 10th, with Luka Oslakovic and Todor Vasilev rounding out the 6th and final row. So there's your grid. And what we'll do quickly now is, for the final time for the World Series, we'll step away very quickly just to get our sponsor advert through. So what we'll do, we'll step away for 2 minutes and allow Thrustmaster to tell you all about their flagship sim racing product, the T500 RS Racing Wheel. Back in 2. And welcome back to live coverage of the final round of the 2013 Thrustmaster Formula Sim Racing World Series. Scott Woodwiss and Matt Hartley here to guide you through the action on what is set to be a championship deciding day between Peter Burlak and Rob van Starkenburg. And it is Burlak who's drawn first blood with pole position, with Rob van Starkenburg line up alongside him. I'm pleased to report actually that during that break we've had an extra car join us in the server, and it is Nick Rowland. So Nick has actually shown up for the race, which is good. He'll start from the back of the grid in 13th, but Nick always likes a challenge, and he's come on pretty well since he joined Precision as an outfit, and of course he's raced in the Precision yellow car and then got promoted up to the GT Omega outfit. Had some really decent results. Been on his day when he's done all right. He's managed to finish up in the top 10 on a few occasions, which is why he's battling in the top 10. And of course, he gets now to duel over 9th place with Eros Masculi in the point standings. Effectively, Roland needs to try and outscore Masculi by at least 2 points, and he will jump himself up into 9th in the standings. He is currently 10th, but I think to be fair, his first season back in FSR, I'm not sure if he's racing here before, but his first season back in FSR with a team, obviously with Precision, in their GT Mega, his sister outfit, and top 10 of the standings, that's a pretty decent effort, I'd say.
Keep rolling, Roland is back. He is here. Great to see the prayers have been answered, and we have had some more cars on the grid, so that's always good to see. And Roland always has some good, exciting battles on the track too, so it always gives him some good entertainment. Yeah, he's had a great season. He always gets good starts. He always pulls his way up the order, and we've seen. I remember Monaco. No one could get round him, and he was just doing his own thing, no mistakes. And I think 3 people put it into the wall, trying to find a way past him. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how he does today. He's #1 fastest actually out there right now on a 13.998. So,
but that's on the soft tire. And of course, I remember that race in Monaco. He actually was running practically the whole race with a damaged car. So
yeah,
it was pretty incredible. He was holding up. I think it was at Zoltan Schutte and then Antonio Collares. That was quite funny to see that Zoltan Schutte just couldn't find a way around. And then Nick was joking about it in the World Championship broadcast a day later, so that was quite funny to see. But of course, Nick is just going at this to find some pace, and I'm pretty sure he's running a similar setup, not the same setup, a few personal tweaks on Nick's car, of course. But of course, the GT Mega cars have come on very strong in the past few races, and it's really nice to see him on the grid for the final race. A 13-car grid. As we said, really wish there was a lot more cars for this race, but I guess others have different commitments, obviously in real life with maybe work or school or college or whatever these guys, whatever walks of life they might be from. So I can see White Runners just take another change of soft tyres, I think, and he's going out for another run. So nice little booster. 113.998 is his top time at the moment, and now got a few more times coming in. 15.2 from Cyril Vermeulen, which means GT Mega hold the top 2 places. David Franco 3rd, then Alex Diaz 4th. What have we spotted, Matt?
I just noticed Peter Burlak did a practice start, and he got a lot of wheel spin off that start, so I'm sure he'll be hoping to get a lot less wheel spin than that when he does it for the real. He's going to pull to the side here, see whether he goes again, because I'm not sure that first one was a good effort, so we'll see. Oh yeah, again, a lot of wheel spin. So we'll see whether, because Van Starkenburg really has to start thinking about beating Burlak to turn 1, because Burlak has shown he's fastest in qualifying, he was fastest in warm-up, so you have to think, if you're Van Starkenburg, that you're going to need track position.
Well, Burlak will have the outside run, of course, because of course pole position is on the left-hand side, on the racing line. And we see it time and time again, is that we see obviously in racing in real life that, the dirty side of the track, the inside is always the dirtiest, because, cars on the racing line, as Adrian Rodriguez takes an impromptu trip across the grass behind Van Starkenburg, is through the centre S, that we've seen that, of course, everyone talks about it's the dirty side of the track because everyone on the racing line, they push the dirt to the inside of the track and all the marbles and such because, you're cleaning up the racing line because that's the grippiest part of the track, of course. But with our factor, we don't really get that. I think there might be a little bit of grip, a little bit of dust on the inside, a little bit of build-up sometimes that the sim provides, but there hasn't really been too much of a case and also too much of an issue. We've seen it quite a few times that Gosby, people in some case, I think it was Suzuka in fact, I think Martin Gosby did a great job. He qualified on the front row, and then, or was it the other way around? I think it was the front row. It was either Gosby and Burlak on the front row in context. It was the guy who was on the inside, got a much better start. We saw that all weekend. So that's going to be quite intriguing to see how that works. Now, I know that looking at how the undulations and how Interlagos kind of starts, I think most of the drivers are going to be practically starting uphill, which is going to make things a little bit more difficult. In fact, I think pole position, the actual, if you look at Van Starkenburg's lap now, the front row is actually facing uphill. So cars near the rear of the grid are going to get a better start, and that should really favour one guy, which of course is Nick Rowland. I know him; he's a demon starter. When he drops that clutch in the bet, just right, he's gone and he's away. I've seen him make so many fantastic starts, and the fact that he's near the back of the grid, where the circuit's a bit more levelled off, that might give him a bit of advantage, and he could definitely make up a lot of positions of the 12 cars that are in front of him. A lot of positions through turn 1 and through the first couple of laps, I think.
Yeah, it's a good point. He definitely could be an advantage, and you made a good point with the dirty side of the grid too. That we run R Factor, and that runs pretty much the same way the grid is in real life. When probably most of the time on R Factor, pole guy would probably have the inside if he had a choice. But he usually has to have the outside, so it's a little bit of an advantage to be on the rubbered surface, but it just depends on how much of an advantage, because turn 1, the way it is, with everybody going downhill into that corner, everybody on the inside is going to slide towards the outside. So if you're on the outside of somebody into turn 1, you're just going to get pushed further wide. Now, then you have the inside for turn 2, though. So it is one of those interesting complexes. You can hold it around the outside of turn 1 here and have the inside for 2. So I don't think it's going to be, Birdlike's going to be too disappointed to be on the outside.
Well, just a minute and 10 seconds left in this warm-up session before we get racing for the final time, and 71 laps await the very thin 13-car grid for today. And some big names that are missing, of course, no Edouard Malorqui, no Martin Gosby, no Mohamed Patel. Looking through the rest of the servers, looking at the rest of the championship standings, see who else is missing, who is a big championship contender. Who else are we missing? We have Mohamed Patel, we have Suzuki and Birdmuller and Collarette. I think we have Collarettes. Yes, yep. We do have Collarettes. We do have Mascudi, we do have Roland, no Danny Van Den Neet either. We've got Ostakovic, no Dimitri Dematos, got Diaz and Rodriguez here. No Zolt Nagy, no Chris de Jong, no Marco Conti. Nisa is here, no Florian Cullen, no Villa Lapala either. David Franco is here, and Todor Vasilev. Another guy who's looking down the field. Some bigger guys have raced through the series. We've actually had Samuel Abert and Fran Schneider and Ollie Picalo who's come over from iRacing, and other drivers came through. Giuseppe Ranieri, who knows a very prominent force in single seaters this season. He's done some fantastic things in both, if I don't mind me mentioning, GBWC and also the SRZ Italian League. Some great stuff there. Ajibola Lawal, who started the season as a precision driver and raced in both the GT Omega and Precision Yellow cars. And then we also had Francisco Maldonado, Michael Francesconi was in there as well. Marek Godek was in there too. He's had a couple of WC outings as well. In fact, we actually had 42 different drivers take part in at least one World Series race this season. Four didn't score. For three different score didn't score. That was Kevin Russo, Fred Mahe, and Kabori Schultz. And only 6 drivers scored 10 points, and that was just 10 points. And that was Attila Jekeli, Balazs Galliard, Thomas Mundy, Todor Pangev, Ryan Walker, Bastien Gauthier. So that's going to be, of course, see how these guys are going to get some extra points near the end of the season. It's always a nice boost to get more points near the end. So, cars warming off onto the warm-up lap then. So what we'll do is I'll quickly let Matt take you through the grid, because of course there's only 13 cars. So Matt, if you do the honours, top to bottom, off you go.
Alright, on pole position we have the Burlak, Peter Burlak, aiming for the championship here to go along with his World Trophy Championship last year. He's going to try and win the World Series this year for Twister Racing. And on second on the grid, also trying to win the championship, is RVS, Rob van Starkenburg for Precision Motorsports. As those two will fight it out, where, as we said earlier, the winner wins the championship. Cyril Verdmuller in third place for GT Omega Racing, looking to play spoiler, and I think could definitely do it here today. Adrian Rodriguez, what a great position he was for PSR in fourth. Zoltan Suti is P5 for Crown 7 Networks. Alex Diaz lines up at the end of row 3 for PSR. Eros Masculi in P7, and Antonio Coleridge will start P8 for the Venus Project Racing. David Franco, a good 9th for PST. And his teammate Santiago Niza will start 10th. Luka Oslakovic is 11th. Todor Vasilev will be 12th. And rounding out the grid is Roland Roland, who did not post the time in qualifying, but we knew he gets electric starts, starting 13th.
So tension is building. Thank you for that, Matt. And last few cars get into the grid slots, and this is going to be key. So The two guys to watch, Peter Burlack on the left in the blue and white car. Starts on pole. Rob van Starkenberg second. Last couple of cars coming into place when we get set for 71 laps for the final time in the World Series. Tensions building, goosebumps are building. We're all ready for 71 laps then. We decide a champion this afternoon. Who's it going to be? Burlack or van Starkenberg? We find out in 71 laps time. Lights are out and we're racing in Brazil. Decent start for Burlack, but van Starkenberg will pull alongside him down towards turn 1. Vermeulen's boxed out and Rodriguez looks up the inside and Burlack sweeps right outside. Oh! Van Starkenberg contact with the championship leaders. Cars off on the grass and Rodriguez leads. Andrew Rodriguez with a fantastic start. For PSR, he leads the Grand Prix at the moment down the rest of Aposta for the first time. Burlack still second, but van Starkenberg all over his back end. And van Starkenberg down the inside, can't get it done. Burlack outbrakes himself and runs wide. Van Starkenberg up the inside, the exit, and he leads. Bob van Starkenberg leads after contact in the first corner, and now what's up there as well in P4, Alex Diaz. Vermeulen down to P5.
We need Burlack to just take it calm here, calm it down a little bit. We know van Starkenberg ran into him, but it was a long race here, and he still can win this championship very easy. He just needs to beat van Starkenberg. Rodriguez is gone. He is gone. He's bolted, and he's out of there. And what a great
I've got it again
start.
now, that's fine, not a problem. I've got it back again now. Diaz, that's still in 5th position. 4th position, they're holding up Franco. Vermeulen's down another spot, and Zuti's down to 7th. But look at Adrian Rodriguez already pulling away like anything. What a fantastic start that was. Up the hill for the first time out of Young Count towards the pit straight once again. And it is incredibly positive sim racing, can't believe their eyes. Adrian Rodriguez is pulling away from the championship leaders. It's Rodriguez who leads across the line for the first lap. But Van Starkenberg's up to 2nd now. Burlack trying to dive up the inside for P3. And he can't get it done. But Van Starkenberg closes the door. And behind there's all sorts going on in the background. That's Roland, and that's one of the biggest Project Racing cars, Oslakovic. He's got past as well, but sideways has Collarets behind him with Nisa.
Championship battle again.
And Burlack round the outside into the Tessina de Largo, and Burlack's through. Great pass from 2nd place in the championship on the championship leader, and this could be that battle that's set to go all the way along this race. Burlack just shuts the door on Van Starkenberg up through Ferradura, and then through Larangia, the second part of that right-hander, and they're up through into the braking zone. Burlack is now just about holding on. And these two are just going at it hammer and tongs right from the get-go. But of course, whilst they scrap, Andrew Rodriguez will just simply run away with it. As David Franco's up to P4, past Alex Diaz. And then Vermeulen, Schutte, Mascudi, Roland's now up to P9, chasing after his contender in the championship for 9th. And then, the two Phoenix Project Racing cars getting very out of shape.
Ran really wide. He lost a lot of ground right there to Peter Burlack, and he's now fallen into a little bit of a grasp with Franco, but he lost a lot of ground. Burlack now has to bolt. This is the perfect time. That one mistake, Van Starkenberg, I think, was lining up for a repass, and he made a big mistake.
And behind, Roland, around the outside, he's through, he's past Mascudi, and straight onto the back of Zoltan Schutte. The man he gave so many headaches to in Monaco. Side by side down the rest of Aposta, Schutte squeezing to the inside. Roland switches back to the outside, he's going this way and that, but somehow Schutte stays in front, and Roland must be fuming at that, because of course Schutte was going one way then the other, and Schutte eventually runs wide on the exit. Roland will try and come around the outside, can he pull it off this time? Trying to go side by side through Ferradura.
No.
Roland's getting brave. No, Schutte back away, contact! Schutte goes around, Roland just holds on, makes contact with Mascudi, going side by side, and Mascudi gets back through. Incredible sequence of corners, and somehow Schutte's carried on again. He's done a complete 360 and come out losing 2 spots, which is absolutely unbelievable. And now he's coming under attack from both Collarets and Oslakovic. What a first couple of laps, it's only the end of lap 3.
A lot of contact going on here, and Schutte with a brilliant pirouette of 360, and he's right behind Roland, who's now going to attack Masculi, who gained from those two hitting each other. Unbelievable. And the two championship rivals going at it, head, heel and tongue for the first lap of the race. Unbelievable how much contact there was.
Well, one person who has had no contact, of course, is Adrian Rodriguez. He must be thinking he's died and gone to heaven, because he's up in the front in the race lead, and he's actually he's pretty much being able to keep Burlack at bay here. The gap is now 1.8 seconds between race leader Adrian Rodriguez and second place Peter Burlack, with Van Starkenberg 3rd. Then we've got the scrap going on between David Franco in P4, Alex Diaz in P5, and Cyril Vermeulen in P6. Roland has got around Masculi, but Masculi's pit light is on, so he must be having problems. So Now we've got GT9 P9, and then still Kolarets, Ostakovic, Niza, and Vasilev. And Niza and Vasilev are in their own battle for over the final 2 spots in the race. And of course, that's the battle over who gets 11 points and who gets 10. So 1 point is the difference between that one. So looks like though Masculi, after that contact, seems to be having some problems, because looks as though he's having to ready the Pescara pit crew, and he may be pulling off into the pits at the end of this lap. So could be early troubles for the Italian, and it's only on the end of lap 4.
Cyril Verdmuller is the guy that really lost out at the start. He didn't get a good start, and he's now stuck behind the PST and the PSR cars. They're not exactly holding him up, but here goes Verdmuller up the inside. There goes one. Like taking candy from a baby, and Verdmuller is into that spot. He does manage to close the door. Did Masculi come in?
I think he did. No, hold on. No, he didn't. He stayed out. Sorry, I thought that was continuing on the point that you were saying earlier on. But looking forward to it, I have a feeling that Nick Rowland is actually on such a pace at the moment. He might be possibly on line for getting as high as 4th in the next few laps, because he's definitely pulled away from Masculi. Then again, we think that Eros does have some problems with that Pescara car after the earlier contact. But Rowland is just slowly coming up, just slowly catching the rear of Diaz, and that's being helped by the fact that Verdmuller is actually holding him up. So after getting past him, so I think that really GT Omega could be in for some solid points today to pretty much seal off 3rd place in the championship for good. And Rowland is making some definite gains here. And I think that's a benefit, is that pace in practice wasn't for show, because he's definitely making an impact after starting from the back of this 13-car grid. Back at the front though, and the gap is still stabilising at about 1.9 to 2 seconds. So as hard as Burlak might, he's not actually really eating into Rodriguez's advantage, which is actually pretty incredible.
Well, this is incredible too. The Burlak-Van Starkenberg battle on the times. Lap 4 of the race, Burlak did a 15.064, Van Starkenberg a 15.063, 1,000th of a second, and then lap 5 of the race, a 14.949 compared to a 14.953, which is 4,000ths of a second. Unbelievably how close they are.
Just shows just how badly these two guys want it. And in this position right now, as it stands, as Burlak is ahead of Van Starkenberg, they would be level on points, but Burlak would take it as he has one more race wing. As Verdmuller goes a little bit wide through the first part of the right-hander at Ferradura, and that allowed Diaz to close in a bit more. And Rowland just sitting on the back there, just a little bit, thinking, I'm not going to push too hard here. Just to watch and see what these two get up to. See if Cyril just holds up Alex a bit more. And then if he does make a mistake, he'll pounce. I'm pretty sure, because he's good at that. So he might try and gain advantage. No change, or there has been a change. Dodo Vasilev has got around Santiago Niza for 12. But that's obviously, of course, depending who gets 11 points and who gets 10. So as we said, 1 point difference in that. And that's pretty much it. There's not really much else you can say, because at least it gives them a chance to focus on drivers individually, because it's such a small field. As Franco's getting very defensive, because he can sense that Verdmuller chasing, as Rowland pulls out from behind Diaz into the center S. And can he make the move sticky? Couldn't get the outside line for turn 2. Diaz stays there, but Rowland will get the better exit through Curva de Sol and onto the Retro Apostle. He'll get the toe down the back straight, and here he comes. This is how he does it. To the inside, pulls alongside the Spaniard, and up the inside into the Sierra de Lago. Diaz will try and hold on around the outside. He's brave stuff from the Spaniard. And they're still side by side. And again, will Rowland have his car just enough confidence in that car to go around the outside of Ferradura? Yes, he does. Brilliant move from Nick Rowland. But Diaz is coming straight back at him on the inside through Larangina. But no, Rowland gets the job done again around the outside, and that's up to P6. Great move.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Rowland's running the softer tyres, because he's definitely flying out there right now and picking his way up the field. That's what my guess would be. So I think Diaz didn't want to get involved in much contact if they are running different tyres. So we'll see exactly how it happened there. But great confidence from Nick Rowland to just turn in, knowing that Diaz will give up the corner when he knows that it is Rowland's corner. As Adrian Rodriguez continues to lead lap 7. Now it's turning lap 8, so 7 laps led for Adrian Rodriguez.
But the gap is coming down, because last time I checked it was 1.9. Now it's just under a second. So looks as though that I possibly think that Rodriguez was running the soft tyre, and I think Rodriguez has possibly just gone a little too quickly, a little too hard on those tyres too soon. And either that's a soft tyre run, or Burlak is on the soft tyres also, but just he's actually looking after them a little bit better, as is Van Starkenberg. So that shows just the difference between someone who can lead a race, is leading a race technically for the first time, and someone who's led a race many times before and knows how to look after their tyres in a position like this. So I think that Berlak obviously is a little slightly wiser head on his shoulders, despite the fact that Rodriguez had the quicker car. That was only due to the fact that Rodriguez was using up his tyres a lot more, and I think he might be struggling out there for pace on that rubber at the moment. But Starkenberg isn't too far away. He's only 1.5 seconds back. It's not really in the kind of area to gain a toe, but Van Starkenberg does appear, we're hearing, to be faster in Sector 1, which is the very high-speed section. Of course, you come down here in Sector 1, down towards the centre S, this very kind of downhill braking zone, very tricky, before you then turn through the centre S, the left, so the right then left, and then again, right, so left then right, and then left again through Curve de Sol. And then it seems to be on straight line speed that Van Starkenberg might have a small edge, but it's then in the twisty stuff that Berlak seems to be able to counteract that.
I'm going to throw just a wrench in things here. What are the chances of Van Starkenberg or Berlak having damage after that contact at turn 1? We saw Van Starkenberg at Monaco get side pod damage, and it ended up killing his engine. So I'm just wondering, I'm hoping that's not the case, but what are the chances of Berlak? He took a pretty big shot from Van Starkenberg.
It's possible, but I can't see any cosmetic damage at the moment in terms of the side pods or anything like that that's actually causing damage, but it could be more internal. It could be the suspension, maybe, could be a slight tweak on one of the suspension arms, we don't know. But of course at the moment they seem to be running on a similar pace, and if they are damaged, it must be damaged in practically the same area, because if they're running at a similar pace, it can't really be affecting that much. Now then, Berlak this time much closer, in the toe down the pit straight. He's not far enough alongside to try and make a dive into the centre S, but if he stays close he will get a run, exiting through Curve de Sol onto the Retro Aposta, and he has closed on the exit. This is the chance for Berlak to gain advantage here in one place more. Onto the Retro Aposta. Here comes Peter Berlak for the lead of the Grand Prix on lap 10.
Whoa.
And Rodriguez goes defensive and forces Berlak to try and go around the outside. But he can't get the job done this time, but Berlak will stay close. What kind of toe can he grab down on the run towards Ferradura? Going to the outside, can Berlak try what Berlak did earlier on? He's trying. Rodriguez is trying to force him to the outside, but Berlak's going to keep coming. And under brakes, Rodriguez holds the inside line, but Berlak will try and get the inside line for Piñarino, but the Spaniard covers him off. And all this is playing into the hands of Van Starkenberg, because the more that Berlak holds up Rodriguez, it's only going to allow Van Starkenberg to close in and sail right onto the gearbox of the Croatian. Through Magullo they come and up towards Young Cow. And look how much Van Starkenberg's closed. Yeah. Definitely less than a second. The gap now between them is now half a second. So now Van Starkenberg will now have a run in the toe on Berlak, but of course Berlak will have that likewise on Rodriguez down the pit straight. Here they come, first, second and third. Not as close as you can throw a blanket over them, but still pretty close indeed. Down the pit straight. Berlak pulls to the inside of Rodriguez for the race lead here in Interlagos. Under braking gets the job done, or does he? Because Rodriguez tries to come back around the outside. Berlak gets it done. Into the lead here for the first time at Interlagos.
Wow, that all played into the hands of Rob Van Starkenberg, but Van Starkenberg now has to try and get by. And Rodriguez was a little naughty here last time. He moved a double move, left and then right. He's parking his car in the middle of the track around here, which means Van Starkenberg will get a really good run coming out of this corner. But you see how much he's closed in on Berlak. If Van Starkenberg does Rodriguez now, then he can gain on this, but he has to get it done, and that's going to be a risky move up the inside here, and he can't quite get it done. So now Rodriguez held up Berlak, but now he's going to start holding up Van Starkenberg, and Berlak can go.
Well, Rodriguez has his pit request licence, so I'd expect that possibly, if there is a soft tyre run that he's done, those softs are given up on him after 11 laps. So that's not exactly fantastic tyre life on the soft tyres if you go really all out on them. But look at this, Berlak is already starting to bolt. This is exactly what he and Twister need to give himself the best chance for the championship, because remember, whichever one of these two drivers finishes technically ahead of them, or effectively wins the race, they win the championship. So even if Berlak is first and second, contact! Oh, Rodriguez with a huge incident, and that could potentially have caused more damage to Van Starkenberg. Wow!
I saw that coming, because you said that he had the pit lane light on, and Van Starkenberg didn't have any idea that he would come in this early on the tyres, and he put it up the inside, and we know what the pit lane is like here. Guys use the entrance to the pit lane to cut the track, and Rodriguez is out. Unbelievable. I think that's a racing incident, so there'll be no steward looking at that, I wouldn't think, but still, unbelievable. Huge collision.
Now then, the big question is, how much, if any, has Van Starkenberg taken damage? Because that could be crucial. That could have potentially just sealed Rob Van Starkenberg's fate. And to be fair, like you said, of course, the race director has said that you can cut across the pit entry, and they do it all the time in real Formula 1, so it's not as if it's not allowed. But of course Van Starkenberg went to the inside. He did, as you said, he didn't realise Rodriguez was going to the pits. He tried the inside line thinking it was going to work, and I think that Van Starkenberg's car is wounded. I think he's taken one hit too many. The gap is now 2.1 seconds, and to be fair, it's increasing by bit by bit. Every single corner, it's now 2.3. I think possibly Van Starkenberg has suffered too much damage, and I think potentially his championship chances are slipping away second by second. I think possibly that could have just sealed it.
Wow, that's the thing. When you run at the front and you're trying to play spoiler, when there's a championship fight on the line, you have to understand that you don't want to get involved with anything when it comes to contact. And Rodriguez, for me, he was defending, he was racing and things like that, but for me, he needed to let Van Starkenberg just go by if he was coming into the pits.
Well, speaking of the pits, Nick Rowland has just pitted now from what was, I guess at that point, it was no 5th position. So now, it looks as though we've now got actually a battle of a 3rd going on. This is the final step on the rostrum. It's David Franco and Cyril Vermeulen. And what we're also seeing again, is just hearing, Rob Van Starkenberg is now back on the pace. So whether or not he had to try and dial something down to try and sort out if there's any kind of problem that he had, but Van Starkenberg has picked it back up again. So whether or not Berlak was able to just, he was taking advantage of the fact that he had so much clear air. Now that Van Starkenberg has it also, he's probably just kind of shaking himself off. But going back up the hill, you can see the gap is going up again. The gap is going up to about, what, 2.6, 2.7 seconds. So he's lost now to the 3/10 or so, 3 or 4 tenths, just on the run to the pit straight alone. So this is quite concerning here. I'm not sure if that precision car is all too healthy at the moment, because he's just about keeping pace, but it's not enough for him to prevent Berlak from pulling away inch by inch, second by second, and that's not really working out for him. So this is now, Berlak is kind of in the prime seats here. He's thinking he's probably just, he's landed on his feet here, quite literally, because he's been out of the whole kind of incidents that have happened, of course, apart from the contact in the first corner. And this could potentially be Berlak running away with the championship, but of course we're only on that 14 of 71, so only about a 5th of the way through the race now. Anything could happen. Berlak could run into troubles, Van Starkenberg could drop off and then seal the championship completely. Anything can happen, despite the fact we only now have a 12-car field.
Yeah, I think it comes down to what we said earlier on with the experience of Rodriguez not being used to running at the front. That he's out of the race right now too, and he was coming on for, well, you have to say, a podium. He was looking like a podium, so again, it comes down to the inexperience that he should have known that Van Starkenberg won't know he's going to come into the pits. And, so Van Starkenberg, I don't think you can put any blame on that. I don't think he was too rash in making a pass. I think it's just one of those racing incidents, and we'll see what type of pace that Precision Motorsports car has. I think Precision now on the pit board, he did a 14.4, so his pace isn't that bad, actually. I think Precision on the pit board now are going to be kind of scratching their heads thinking, okay, what do we do?
Oh, Cyril Vermeulen just got around David Franco. That's for P3, but Franco will try and get back at him down the Retro Aposta. What kind of toe can he get? Well, he's moving around a little bit behind the GT Omega, but couldn't quite get it done. What, of course, we're also talking is that Nick Rowland pitted, and he's now back into what is now P10, and that was obviously, as we said, and I think he's actually back. Actually, Rob Van Starkenberg now with the fastest first sector of anyone of the entire Grand Prix. So looks like that Precision Motorsports car has still got plenty of life left in it. So maybe I spoke too soon. Maybe Van Starkenberg has got enough pace left in that Precision car to try and keep pulling back the gap towards Berlak, and he needs to do that as quickly as he can, because of course, with the first round stops coming up, I'm guessing for the hard tyre runners in the next, I'd say, what should we say, about 6 to maybe 8, 6 to 10 laps, maybe, depending on how long they can stretch it. It depends how long these tyres can last. But let's look at the lap times this time around. 1:14.2 for Berlak, a 14.4 for Van Starkenberg. So there's definitely sectors where Van Starkenberg is struggling, and he's not as quick as Berlak in front. So this is the dogfight for the moment. This is the championship. The two championship protagonists. It's pretty simple. Whichever one of these guys wins the race will win the World Series Championship. And currently, right now, it will be Peter Berlak of Croatia for Twister Racing. His second championship on the trot. He was World Trophy Champion last year. Currently still holds it, of course, until it gets decided tomorrow. And, of course, Rob Van Starkenberg is out today to try and make it 4 consecutive titles for Precision in the World Series. to go with, of course, their 4 consecutive World Championship titles, which have been won by Bono Weiss. So those are the lead pair at the moment. And Vermeulen is managed to hold station and play rear gunner to Van Starkenberg. Not that he really needs it, as he's that far ahead. He's about 7 seconds up the road, but still in 3rd place ahead of David Franco.
Yeah, I'm watching this fight between Franco and Vermeulen, and Franco has a lot more wing on than Vermeulen. And Franco actually just needs to stay wide. Vermeulen's doing a very smart move. I've seen it before. Coming down to the start-finish straight, through that kink, you can use the pit lane entrance, or you can run really wide, right around the outside, and guys sometimes don't follow you, and that way you break the stream. Vermeulen did it last time. Let's see whether he does it again, or whether he'll go tight. You see, he stays that wider, and Franco comes to the inside, and he actually needs to just kind of try and follow him.
Well, he's doing definitely a good job of following him at the moment, but just again, I think Vermeulen just ultimately has that little bit more race pace, and you can see it because Vermeulen just about getting himself out of range for Franco to gain a slipstream. And looking back to the rest of the field, Alex Diaz in 5th position in the remaining positive sim racing car. Of course, that's the white car with the blue and green striping on it. Zoltan Schutte back in P6, not showing the pace he was showing in Q1. So a race pace he's definitely lacking at the moment. Antonio Colleretts is now 7th. Notably, I think they've actually, I'm pretty sure I've seen that Antonio Colleretts and Venus Project Racing are actually using a different car shape. If I remember correctly, they were using the, I guess because of the car shape they're using, I think pretty sure they're using the car shape based on the 2012 Ferrari. I think they've switched to this race to the Lotus, or at least in the last couple of races they have anyway. So the Lotus car shape, so definitely similar to that of the Twister and Precision cars. Nick Rowland is now up into 8th place, as I think either Lukas Lakovic has gone off somewhere, or he's just made a pit stop, but he has got his pit request light on, so that says to me maybe that he's had an excursion somewhere, which means that he's having to pit, and also his tyres about to stay at their welcome. So Rowland up to P8 on fresher tyres, while the only guys yet to stop. Masculi now runs in 9th, and Ostakovic 10th, Santiago Niza 11th, and both Toto Vasilev and of course Adrian Rodriguez are out of this 13 car grid, with only on lap 7, on lap 18 now 71, and it's still Berlak who leads, but now by 3 seconds. So at the moment, Berlak has the measure, and of course he is heading for what could potentially be his 2nd title in 2 years, and of course his 1st World Series Championship, with a view to running it full time possibly in the World Championship next year.
Yeah, it's all going Twister's way right now. They had that little bit of a scare when they were racing Rodriguez close, and the turn 1 incident, of course, from Van Starkenberg. As we said, the inside slides wide to the outside, and we'll see whether any of them come out to pit. The Todor Vasilev incident was actually coming out of the first chicane. He actually crashed on the straight. And we'll see. Now, none of the drivers pull into the pit lane. Van Starkenberg won't, so they're going to keep going round. Vermeulen looks like he's pulled away from Franco now. So there's not going to be any fight going on there. I think Vermeulen's in for a very boring afternoon. So last lap for Peter Berlak was a 14.173, and the last lap for Rob Van Starkenberg, if I just scroll down here, was a 14.4. So Van Starkenberg, he's closed up a bit, but Berlak definitely has the pace to keep away from Van Starkenberg. Maybe they're going to have to do some kind of an undercut to get back into the draft of Berlak and try and get that track position back, and hope that Van Starkenberg can pull something off with driving to try and win this championship. Because as of right now, Twister have to be kind of very casually stroking their beards, thinking, we might have this one. So we'll have to see. Vermeulen still, as we said, 3rd. Franco 4th. Diaz 5th. Zoltan Schutte is in 6th for Crown 7 Netrix. He's kind of not near anybody either. Colleretts is 7th. Rowland is 8th. And Masculi 9th, with Niza and Oslakovic rounding out the field with 20 laps gone here at Interlagos. Van Starkenberg is into the pits then. So RVS, they are going to try the undercut to try and catch back up. He needs clear air here. Diaz is kind of out front. Can Van Starkenberg get out in clear air? It looks like he will.
So Berlak continues to lead, and as Van Starkenberg has just pitted, Alex is out in P5, and as you said, in that clear air that he needs on the fresh tyres, and let's see if he can gain some kind of an undercut here on Burlak. I reckon that on the pace he's running, he might catch Alex Diaz in the next couple of laps, but so far he's got that space that he needs to try and pump in a couple of quick laps here. As Burlak is exiting Young Cow and heading up the hill. No pit request light as far as I can see, but he may not need that, and he'll come straight in, possibly, if he has to. Carries on, so he feels comfortable on that set of tyres right now. But we'll keep an eye on whether or not he does make the call to take on his first set of tyres. But that also currently holds the fastest lap of the race at the moment at 14.064 for Croatian. So Vermeulen holding on in second right now for GT Omega. Third for David Franco. He'll certainly be turning heads in the World Series. Definitely going to be snapped up by a top team if Biocross, if Positive Sim Racing somehow let him go. We've got Diaz fourth. Van Starkenburg is already closing in P5. Zuti sixth. Collarette 7th. Roland's now back in 8th, running by himself. And he has a huge slide in the middle of the first part of the Centre S into turn 1, locking the rears a tiny bit, but it shows he's pushing. And he's crucially ahead of Eros Masculi. That's where he needs to be, but he needs to outscore him by more than 2 points. As far as I can tell, he's only outscoring him by 1, which means that Masculi would hold on to 9th place in the standings.
Here we go, RVS cam. He's right behind Alex Diaz and needs to clear him immediately for this undercut to work, and he must be thinking, I've already fought one of these guys. And PSR are probably thinking, let's just bring one of these cars home. We are first and fourth after the first lap.
Well, Diaz is actually coming in.
Oh no, not again! If Van Starkenburg goes to the inside.
He cannot make the same mistake again. He's going to go to the inside again. He is going to the inside again. And Diaz gets the back eight. He decides to carry on. And this time, with a sigh of relief for precision, no more dramas but with the other Positive Sim Racing car. And Van Starkenburg is up to P4, and that's pretty swift. He didn't lose too much time as Diaz gets a little bit shaky on the exit of the Centre S and through Curva de Sol. But that's key. That's Van Starkenburg needed to make that happen because he couldn't afford to stay behind the Spaniard for too much longer. Now, Burlak hasn't put his pit request light on yet, so he still feels pretty comfortable on these tyres right now. And I wonder if possibly he's sliding the back end and braking for Bico de Pato. But he carries on. In fact, it's a 1:13.9 for Van Starkenburg on these fresh tyres, so you can definitely tell that he is pushing on. He knows what's at stake here. He knows he has to win this race. And any advantage he can get on the lap times he's setting is definitely going to be a blessing. Now, what is Burlak going to do? Will he hold to the right? No, he carries on once again for another lap. And what's his lap time this time? Right, it's a 13.9. So Burlak is actually pretty much matching Van Starkenburg's pace on fresh tyres.
But so Van Starkenburg had the traffic last lap. Van Starkenburg is going to come and blow that out of the water this lap. I think this is going to be like a 13.5, because he's had a good lap. So we'll see. Van Starkenburg comes across the line, and a 13.6, yeah, so he does start beating that time.
So quickly, as Alex Diaz now does in fact pit this time, after avoiding the collision. I'm pretty sure that Positive was screaming over the radio, let him through, don't cause another incident, because of course it's ruined Adrian Rodriguez's race, and could have potentially ruined Van Starkenburg's chance of the championship. But thankfully, for the moment, not quite sure yet, but for the moment it hasn't done just that, because I think Van Starkenburg's doing just about enough to put in these quick laps so that when Burlak does eventually decide to pit, he has gained back some of that time he lost, because I think by the time he pitted he was about 3.5 seconds back. I think he's doing a bit just to try and close down a little bit more. I think the undercut is exactly what he needs. So Burlak now is lapping still in the low 14s, high 13s, but let's see what happens on this next time around. He's a bit more closer to the inside and carries on this time. So what's the time this time around? It is a 13.9 again. A very consistent lap times on this set of tyres. So there's not too much difference in that time from the last one. So maybe about 100th of a second in it, I think. So good stuff from Burlak to carry on, but still, Van Starkenburg is still pounding in these very quick lap times. In fact, he's coming up behind David Franco now for P3. Lap time is now 13.9, so effectively he has matched or gone fractionally quicker than Burlak's previous time on the lap just completed. So Van Starkenburg, either that's just the fresh tyres doing that, or whether or not he's actually on these fresher tyres, he's not actually getting any more because of that small damage he has, if any. I'll be amazed if he doesn't, but that certainly would have rattled him a little bit, and I think Van Starkenberg just been using that time trying to get himself a bit more composed again and back in the zone. And he's now practically running the same pace as Berlek is, and that could be crucial.
Yep, I think Precision are going all for one thing, which is track position. They have to find some way to get Van Starkenberg in the lead of this race. Because right now, he doesn't have the pace to beat Peter Berlek, and Berlek is obviously better on the tyres. So Van Starkenberg's just got to try and get track position some way through the undercut and hope that maybe he can force a mistake from Berlek. And
Berlek does indeed pit on this lap. This could be crucial. So, how much time has Van Starkenberg gained, if any?
About a second.
Well, Berlek's hit his box right now, and where's Van Starkenberg? Van Starkenberg's now coming now through Agua Bancadas, a little kink, and Berlek is already away and already coming down towards the end of the pit line, and now through the centre rest of the pit straight. Van Starkenberg's coming to the first couple of corners. Is it going to be? Ooh, is it going to be close? I'm actually not sure if it is, because Berlek is now out, and let's see. He has gained a bit of time, as you said, probably about a second. He'll gain a bit more in the slipstream of Franco behind. And he is due to pit as well. So the gap is, in fact, actually he has gained about a second, because the gap now between Berlek and Franco is about 2 seconds. And Van Starkenberg getting daring up the inside. Oh, again, Van Starkenberg, he knows he has to take risks, but it's going to be quite crucial. Just notice, look who's in front of Peter Berlek.
Here we go.
Vermeulen. Now, Vermeulen has pitted, I believe, or has he? I don't think he has yet. He hasn't. So this could be quite intriguing, because Vermeulen will try and do everything he can to just about bulk Berlek a little bit.
Yep.
I'm sure that Berlek will try and get past on the pit straight. He'll have the run for sure, and I'm pretty sure so will Van Starkenberg on Franco. Now then, let's see what happens here, because Berlek's going this way and that. Vermeulen just about holding the inside line, and Berlek's going to be forced to go the inside. Berlek getting very defensive up towards the pit wall, and Berlek will try and go around the outside, I think. Will he get the outside run and set him a line for turn 2? No, he doesn't, because Vermeulen has held the line perfectly, and Van Starkenberg, more crucially, has got around Franco.
Great job from Vermeulen. Great job. They're going to leave Vermeulen out here and try and get Berlek to pass him on the straight. Vermeulen's going to not give him the inside. He finally does give him the inside, going to here and pushes him side by side.
A little bit of tyre rubbing, but Berlek is finally through, but Vermeulen's not done. He's coming straight back at him on the exit. Up to Ferradura. Inside, then outside. Vermeulen can't find a way around back again. He knows that the more he helps up and frustrates Berlek, the easier it's going to be for Van Starkenberg just to reel these two back in. This is playing nicely into hands of Precision at the moment, and Twister must be scratching their heads thinking, what on earth do we do next? But actually now Berlek is ahead of Vermeulen and starting to pull away on those fresher tyres a little bit. He's starting to create a small gap. So this is starting to work out a little bit better now. And the headache's starting to fade a little bit more, and Van Starkenberg is now, let's have a look, I think he's now about 2 seconds. 2 seconds is the gap now. And Vermeulen has now put his pit request light on, so he should be coming in at the end of this lap. He's switching to the inside in a second. No, he carries on for another lap. So, as Franco pits in the background from what was P4. So, at the moment, it's Berlek who leads and has pitted. Vermeulen who's second and hasn't, but his pit request light is on. And Van Starkenberg, who is third but has pitted. Franco, I think, will come out and will be back in 5th, because there goes Zoltan Schutte to continue the lead, for continue 4th for Netrex, excuse me. And Franco, I think, will just be out ahead of Alex Diaz, I think. It's going to be close, but the two sister teammates will now, I think, be side by side on the exit. And here they come, and I think they are going to be side by side. Look at that. Franco just drops in behind Diaz, but the fresher tyres, I'm sure, will take their effect. And it wouldn't surprise me to see Franco sweeping past his sister teammate, possibly by the end of this lap.
Yeah, I think now is a good time to shout out for Alex Diaz. I believe that he would have made a great decision to not pit. I believe he had the light on and he was going to pit. That lap Van Starkenberg came at the inside, but Diaz saw Van Starkenberg on the inside, saw he was blocking the pit lane, and decided to go around for one more lap, which is what Rodriguez probably should have done in the hindsight of things, was understand that Van Starkenberg was there and you can't get to the pit lane.
Man who really is flying out there. New fastest lap of the race from Santiago Niza, 1:13.123. And Niza's back down in, well, last. There's no other word for it. As Vermeulen is in from what was 2nd place. So he's now released Van Starkenberg in a way. And he will now come out, I'm pretty sure, comfortably ahead, just about at least. Back in 3rd.
I think the team for Nisa will be going mad on the radio. Why are you the fastest guy on the track when you're 53 seconds down? So,
why not?
Yeah.
Gives them a confidence boost, especially for next season, so why not go for it?
Yeah.
So Verbiol then exits back out in third with a nice small gap. Second and a half. And Verbiol, of course, has track position and the fresher tyres, so that'll work out nicely for him there. He should be able to maintain that gap for third. But Diaz, as we said, good shout out. In fact, the extra lap he stayed out, letting Van Starkenburg through, has actually played to his advantage because, of course, he has now leapfrogged his sister teammate David Franco, who was running pretty high up in the order and battling with Verbiol over P3 anyway. So that's worked out pretty nice. Roland's back now up to P6 through the stops after his early trip to check. Very small side pod damage on both side pods, I think, especially the left one, taking a bit of a whack. But Mascudi is ahead of in P7, and Juti now P8. And I think I think Juti might is that a drive-through penalty for Zoltan Juti, because I can see a small marker next to his top left. I think Juti's got a drive-through penalty. I think, for whatever reason, because I'm seeing a marker with 2 red arrows, which indicate that must be a drive-through. I'm not sure if Jaakko, Mikkonen, our cameraman, can confirm that.
He just pitted, so it's got to be speeding in the pit lane.
It must be. So that must be the case. And so that must be Zoltan Juti, we believe, has a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. And he has just pitted, as you said, so that must be what it is. So he must be waiting to do that. And obviously, you get a range of 3 laps to serve a drive-through. So he's obviously trying and eke it out as long as he can, as long as he can get away with, before he has to come in and serve it. So that will be P8 he'll be after relinquishing the course. Then Kolarets will come through, and so will Ostakovic. So the 2 Venus Project racing cars look as though they're on course if they can keep it on the road for a double top 10 finish.
Championship update. Rob van Starkenburg is going to have to hope for a mistake from Peter Burlack, or he has to find some way of getting track position. Even if he has no tyres at the end of the race, he can't win this championship in second position. So he doesn't have the pace, he's half a second down, so Precision are going to have to find some way to get that car in front, even if he has to do miracles when it's in front.
Just a confirmation from Sam Jones, one of our other broadcast directors, that it is in fact the icon we had on the screen for Zoltan Juti does mean a drive-through, which means that Zoltan Juti, in fact, he's in right now. So Zoltan Juti is in. Now his pit request light on is on as well, but I'm sure he won't stop in his pit box. But 3 goes, drive-through penalty.
Longest feeling in the world.
Limiter's off now, so he can now get back up to racing speed. I think he might get it just in front of Ostakovic. Oh, he's getting very sideways on the exit of Center S. And indeed he does. But Ostakovic will get just about a very small toe, as in front, must be Kolarets is locked up slightly into the Cida de Largo. And Zuti now is back out now in P9, so it means that he'll be on course for a few more points. And of course the 11 car still running. Santiago Nisa 11th, holds the token of fastest lap of the race, of course, but he's got so much clear air, it doesn't really surprise the fact he's on the softer compound tyre, obviously, and running his own race. So it's quite extraordinary. We're now at lap 30 of 71, so we're already heading towards half distance. And even with a small field, doesn't time fly when you're having fun in the final race of the season?
Yep, it does, especially when there's all sorts of contact going on and people crashing in the pits and drive-throughs, and it's always exciting. Doesn't matter, even if there's only one guy out there, I think he'd probably still earn a drive-through or something to make it exciting. Because this is what happens when guys are giving everything they have. They're pushing the limiter coming into the pits, and just that little bit, and you have to come and do a drive-through.
Well, everyone seems to have calmed down now, which is a shame, because effectively the closest battle that I can see on track, at least, is what was going on for P9. But of course, I think Zuti has the measure of Ostakovic quite easy, so he'll pull away from him. So really, a closer battle on track appears to be possibly between Diaz and maybe Franco. But Diaz is pulling away from Franco, so that's not really working out either. So we're kind of losing whatever battles we want to watch because, well, there aren't any. So it's just kind of a case of just keeping track of everyone and making sure they're all actually still running by the end of the race, because coming to lap 31 and we really lost 2 cars at what was a very thin field anyway, 13 car grid, and just hoping for some action. We don't seem to be getting any.
Yeah, well, I think hopefully this will be the calm before the storm. I got my camera firmly set on Burlack and Van Starkenburg, And it's funny because every time Burlak comes around, Van Starkenburg is that little bit further behind, so it just gets me worried for that split second, like, oh, where's he gone? But he comes back into the screen, so just keep an eye and make sure that nothing happens between those two. Obviously, that's the most important battle here today, but it's not really working out for Precision Motorsports right now. What can you do in this circumstance? Burlak has got a good 5, 6, 7 laps longer on the tyres, and he has half a second lap advantage. Like, how can you get Van Starkenburg in front of Peter Burlak? Safety car?
The only thing I can imagine is that if they actually put him onto the soft compound tyres and try and get him close, maybe for one, maybe 2 stints, because of course I don't believe that these guys are probably running the first. I don't think they ran hard tyres in the first stint. I think they probably sorry, they didn't run soft tyres in the first stint, I should say, because of course the World Series isn't bound by the rules that you have to use not only the compound that you qualified on, but also use both the soft and hard compound tyre. You can use both if you want. You can use them in any context you want, so you can run the whole race on softs, you can run the whole race on hards, you can do whatever you like, you can mix and match strategies, you can kind of alternate, you can do 2 stints on the softs, 2 stints on the hards, you can do whatever you like in World Series and World Trophy. So, I think that these guys will have started on the hard compound tyres, and maybe they're only saving the softs, as you would in real F1, save them until the end when the fuel is burned off, when you've got a much lighter fuel tank, lighter fuel load left over in the last few laps of the race. But Van Starkenburg, maybe if Precision wants to try and switch this around, they may, on his next stop, may put Van Starkenburg onto a set of soft tyres to try and close that gap in. He'll have to stop again, obviously, much sooner than Burlak does. Whether or not that actually manages to gain Van Starkenburg anything remains to be seen, or whether or not he gets himself a couple of hard tyre stints out of the way now and runs the rest of the race on softs and makes the time up that way. That could be a quicker strategy. We're not 100%, we'll have to wait and see how it plays out, but Precision must be scratching their heads thinking, what do we have to do now to try and salvage something from this final race and potentially salvage our championship?
Yeah, I think that you have either 2 bets right now, which is you stay with your strategy and hope that Burlak makes a mistake, which I wouldn't put my money on that. So I think then the second strategy is you have to do something crazy and try and get in the lead of the race and then try and fight Burlak on track. And I'm not saying punt him into the wall or anything like that, but if he's fighting him on track, maybe you get in Burlak's head, then maybe Burlak makes a mistake. That's all you can do right now, because Burlak is controlling the race. So you have to find some way to catch him back up, to try and get in Burlak's head just that little bit, and maybe Burlak will make a mistake on his own.
Well, it's happened on a few occasions this season, because I do remember Suzuka in the World Championship stands up very vividly, is that he had a bit of contact with, I think it was Marek Godek, I think, and there was contact between the two of them in turn 1 at Suzuka, and Burlak got so annoyed that he actually tried a crazy dive into the first part of the S-curves, and actually ended up taking himself off into the gravel trap and out of the race. So it can happen.
Exactly.
But I have to wait and see. Now, there's a great battle brewing now for P9 between Masciuli and Ostakovic, and Masciuli, well, just drives clean around Ostakovic at Ferradura to take P9, and also that Santiago Nies is up there, but Ostakovic has got his pit request license, so he is planning to come in for a stop. So the Venus Project Racing boys are getting ready to receive one of their drivers, and Nies might try and cause a bit more frustration for Mr. Ostakovic in a second, because he's right on the gearbox of the... I've got to pick it carefully. I think he's a Slovakian. Either Slovakian or Slovenian. I think he's Slovenian, sorry. He always get mixed up with it. They're very similar names and very similar flags, so he has to try and work out which one's which. As Nies now goes to the outside, I think that's the wise thing to do. No, don't go to the inside, because Ostakovic is pitting. Yeah. And Nies just about realised that and thought, oh, better go to the outside this time, and manages to stay there. So, P10 for Santiago Nies then, and through reverse order, I guess, as they go through with 11 cars left. Of course, Ostakovic is now 11th in the pits, of course. Santiago Nies is 10th. Eros Masciuli just got around Ostakovic on that previous lap and is now 9th. Zoltan Schuti is now in 8th after his drive-through earlier on for Netrex. 7th is Antonio Collarets in the second Venus Project Racing car. 6th, Nick Roloff starting from the back of this 13-car grid. 5th is David Franco for the Positive Sim Racing team. 4th is sister teammate Alex Diaz, who looks like he might be coming in for a pit stop. No, he carries on and decides to go in for another lap. It worked last time, why not do it again? 3rd, Cyril Verdmuller for GT Omega. Almost in no man's land, running a race of his own. 15 seconds behind teammate Van Starkenburg and about 4.5 seconds ahead of Diaz. So got a nice comfortable kind of space to him to run his own race. Then of course the championship protagonists are going at it at the front. Van Starkenburg second, but he's now dropped to 4.2 seconds behind Peter Berlak, who has just got around Ostakovic, who just exited the pits after making his pit stop.
Yeah, I think Verdmuller is doing pre-season testing already right now. It's kind of on his own. Not much to run around, maybe test a little bit of camber or something, I'm not really sure. He's got third place pretty much signed, sealed and delivered if unless anything crazy happens.
I think it's what I like to call. I think the term is it's a well publicised test session now for Silverberg. You know, that's the term I think I like to use on that one. Where there's lots of cars around running their own races and stuff. And effectively, Vermeulen is just out there running, almost like you said, treating it more like a test session, running laps. And effectively, but the only difference is what he'll get out of it is a third place and step on the podium. So that will do him nicely for Vermeulen to round off the year, I'm guessing. Looking back at some of the rest of the field, and we can talk about some of the drivers now. We've got actually gives us a good chance. Now we've got a very thin field of 11 cars left. It gives us a good chance to talk about some of the drivers individually and about their season. I guess we could start with Peter Berlak, of course, and I think he struggled a little bit in the first half of the season to get used to the new physics and the new car shapes and the new driving position and everything. But second half of the season, from I have to say from Silverstone onwards, when he won the first race of the season, he really has come on strong, come in his own. And I think really, Berlak likes circuits which have got very fast, not necessarily fast, but long corners, long flowing corners. Circuits like places where he has won, places like Silverstone with very high speed, long corners. Hungaroring has actually got quite a few of those, even though they're quite slow. Long corners in the first and last sectors and what have you. So, also he's won at places such as, like I didn't win at Monza, but he won at a few other places that he's driven at. But he's had a pretty intriguing season this year, and I think the fact that he's actually come on so strong and come off the back of that World Trophy Championship, when it seems to be that once he picked himself up and found the niche in that car, the switch that he needs to flip in order to really find that true pace, he really has come alive and shown the exact kind of, when he's on it, he shows the kind of dominance that he found in World Trophy last year.
Well, we had a fight on the track between Franco and Diaz, and then Diaz pitted, so yeah, but like what you said was very interesting, that they prefer tracks with the longer, faster corners, and you can see why. The Twister car definitely changes direction very quickly, has a very pointy front end, and it just grips nicely through those long corners. The Precision car seems to be much better on traction and out of those corners and down the straights, so it's just the difference between the two cars that have been built, and which this track is kind of both, to be honest. But Berlak right now, it seems to be going all of his way. Van Starkenburg has been very consistent, but basically both of their championship seasons are going to come down to the end of this race, whether they were a success or not. Nobody likes to finish in second.
So if as Ed once said, second is first of the losers, but then again, none of these guys are losers because they're all out there to try and win, and they're all very capable sim racers in their own right, and Berlak is doing everything he can to make sure that he walks away from today's race as not only the race winner, it'll be his 6th victory of the season, but also his 2nd championship on the trot and his 1st World Series title, and that will certainly give him confidence going into the World Championship next year, where I'm almost certain that he'll carry on with Twister and run a full-time campaign. He certainly has shown some strength in the World Championship this season, in the races that he's done, and he's definitely raced in the World Championship. He's been racing the World Championship on a couple of occasions on and off since 2011, and in fact, looking at his results for Interlagos, the only 2 times he's actually finished decently have been in the top 10, have been actually here in the same year, in 2011, because he finished, I believe, if I get this right in the right order, it was one of the 2 of the orders. He did the World Trophy and World Championship races for Netrex Academy and Too Fast for You Racing respectively. And I believe he came 7th in the World Trophy race for Netrex Academy and 10th for Too Fast for You here in Brazil still in the World Championship race. Rob van Starkenburg pits for the 2nd time, again earlier than Berlak does, so he's again trying to gain the undercut. Now, let's see what kind of tyres he puts on. Is it softs or is it hards?
Diaz had a drive-through too. Diaz has taken a drive-through penalty as well, it seems, because he came to the pits 2 laps in a row.
So Diaz then, so it looks like he has probably taken a drive-through. He's now just ahead of Zoltan Schutte, It's tricky how this is all shaking out, as Nick Rowland is now up to P5. Franco 4th, moving the 3rd, and Rob van Starkenburg has such a gap on Verbula. He's exited out with still in front of his fellow Dutchman. And we'll have to wait and see now. Let's see how this shakes out. Meanwhile, Peter Burlak has been outsetting fastest laps of the race. He's now on a 13.071. So, and Burlak! Whoa! Exit a young cow. You talked about mistakes. You just made one, the exit young cow. Just found the throttle pedal a little too quickly. And the rear end just snapped around on him a little bit, but managed to just stand on the anchors and carry on. So I wonder, is that Burlak now out in front? Losing focus a tiny bit. Maybe that was just a quick error. But I'm sure if it's near a quick one, he'll recover from it pretty quickly. So now Van Starkenburg in 2nd. The gap between the two of them now, as they cross the line, is 18 points. It's just over 18 seconds. And judging by the fact that Van Starkenburg was about 16 seconds ahead of Verbula also, and managed to maintain a couple of seconds gap on him, that suggests to me that that gap is too small. But already, the gap's coming down pretty quickly, because it's now, of course, it's 17.2. But then again, Burlak is in the twisty stuff, whereas Van Starkenburg is now on the still on the high speed section. So then again, I wonder. That's kind of very quickly. Do you reckon Van Starkenburg's done what we think? Has he gone off the soft tyres, do you reckon? I think he has.
Maybe. He's either done that, or the Burlak's mistake cost him a lot more time than what we thought, because he was not 18 seconds behind. He was 21. He's now 18.
I think Van Starkenburg has gone onto a set of soft tyres. I think he's done exactly what we said he had to do to try and close the gap in. And I think this could potentially be changing the complexity of the race. We are past halfway. Burlak has just started lap 42 of 71. And if you are just joining, this is the final round of the 2013 Thrustmaster Formula Sim Racing World Series here at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache in Interlagos in Sao Paulo. And Peter Burlak is leading the race, 2nd ever championship, but if he wins, he will be level on points with Van Starkenburg. And a 1 minute, and look at that. How about that for a hot lap? A 1 minute 11.4, that is definite confirmation. Rob Van Starkenburg is on the soft tyres, and that effectively could potentially change how this race plays out, because he can bring the gap down to less than 15 seconds, which effectively is what he needs to do to get himself an advantage. But of course it does mean that Van Starkenburg will have to pit again for another set of those soft tyres, but it's definitely showing the effect. He lapped so 1.7 seconds quick, the 1.6 seconds quicker, that was right, than Peter Burlak's previous fastest lap of the race. So I wonder, could Twister be looking at that and be thinking, maybe we need to try and cover that off and go to softs as well?
Well, that's the thing. That's what Precision has done right now. They have said, okay, we're not going to make this decision. We're going to get this Twister to make this decision for us. So now they've played their hand, and Twister now has a tough call to make. And that's all Rob Van Starkenburg is trying to do right now, is hope for a mistake from somebody, either the team or the strategist or Burlak himself. He's just trying to shake things up a little bit, because things weren't going his way. So we'll see exactly what Van Starkenburg can do. He's flying right now, but in a way he's a little bit too quick, because he's going to come out. Burlak's going to stay out for quite a long time, and he's trying to get close to Burlak on the track. So Burlak might pit at the wrong times. This might not work, but basically it's made Twister have to make a decision.
Well, we think that if, just been told by Jaakko, who's of course our broadcast, our cameraman, that we think that if Burlak is going to run hards for the rest of the race and do a hards, basically make a two-stopper on hards, he'd have to pit in the next. He'd be pitting in about 6 laps' time. So whilst that's happening, of course, Van Starkenburg would just be taking chunks out of Burlak's advantage. But of course, it does mean, of course, that when Van Starkenburg pits, he might be a bit of a disadvantage. So we'll have to wait and see how this all shakes out. But it can be intriguing. It's all key as to what happens, to how far behind Van Starkenburg is when Burlak pits, and effectively when Van Starkenburg pits, how much time he needs it. Rob will definitely get track position, but of course he'll have to pit much sooner, because of course he has to go change it off. These soft tyres only last after about 11-12 laps, depending on how long you can make the run. Of course, the fuel has burned down, so he's got less than half a tank, or just under half a tank now. So, of course, he'll be able to eke out maybe an extra lap, maybe an extra 2 laps on these soft tyres, depending, because of the lighter weight. But we'll have to wait and see.
See, this is not a long pit lane. Brazil is well known for being a very short pit lane, so I'm not too sure why guys would not use the soft tyres that much anyway, because if he's going out there almost 2 seconds a lap quicker, he's going to gain the pit lane time in about 6 or 7 laps. So if Van Starkenberg continues to do this, this strategy might work out. I think Twister are doing the right thing right now, that you have to stick with what they know, what their plan is, and see what happens, because Burlak and Van Starkenberg needs Burlak to pit like now, so they come out reasonably close to each other, but Burlak won't do that because he's been going so well on these tyres.
As indeed. Of course, I think the plan might be enough for precision, as we said earlier on, just to make Precision's life very difficult, make Twister's life and Burlak's life himself very difficult in these last few stints.
Sorry to interrupt, here comes Diaz. Diaz is fighting with Kolarec, who we found a battle on the track. Unbelievable.
Hooray! Got one finally. So Diaz then on the back of Kolarec. Time for some action, I think. Let's see what happens. Right, Diaz then on the rear of Kolarec through Megullo. Up towards Young Cow, and I'm pretty sure if Diaz can close in a bit more under braking, he'll get the run he needs, and a small toe up the hill now towards the pit straight. I think he's just about got that. Let's see how much of an effect he gets then. Through Arquebancadas, the very fast left-handed, almost, is I suppose in some ways a corner, or a kink if you can call it that. And Diaz will get the toe, but he won't pull alongside the Croatian, and down towards the braking zone for Center S. And Kolarec has the run, but Diaz then, can he get a line through Center S? I think he can. Now is his second chance to get in slipstream. Down the Retro Aposta. Kolarec immediately goes defensive. Diaz then will try and go to the outside if he can. Back to the racing line. Diaz will have a lunge up the inside. Had to stand on the anchors because Kolarec had the line covered and swept across. And of course, all this will play into Jussi's hands if they're not too careful. So through Ferradura. It's very tricky but very fast uphill right-handed. The second part, Larangina. And again, Kolarec holds the racing line and sweeps across from Diaz and holds on.
Diaz has a lot of wing on that car. That car has a lot of wing on that thing because he's barely closing on Kolarec, even with the slipstream, so he's going to have to get right close to him coming out of this final corner. Now, the advantage of running the more wing, though, is that Diaz can brake much later than Kolarec, so if he does get close to him, he should get the pass done, and look at how close he is now.
Yeah, that's effectively, if he is running higher wing, only way he'll gain any advantage if he tucks himself right under the gearbox column, which is exactly what he's doing right now. This is perfect for Diaz. Goes to the outside. Kolarec will be forced to hold the inside line to go defensive again. And Kolarec holds that racing line, tries to force Diaz.
Look at the brake.
But Diaz, with much better braking round the outside, inside line for the second part of the Center S. Job done. Excellent stuff. Alex Diaz, some fantastic racing and strategy up to P5. And of course now Kolarec have to look at his mirrors, because not only will you have to try and catch and repass Diaz if it's possible, but also look at his mirrors, because not only Zoltan Schutte but also Nick Rowland are coming into play here. Could be a forecast scrap for 5th here.
So they could. Gap between the leaders, or the times last lap, so 11.9. Van Starkenberg slowed down a little bit with these soft tyres, not quite giving him the same amount of grip, but he's still closing quite a lot on Burlak.
It certainly is. The gap is now almost under 10 seconds. It's at the end of the Retro Aposta. It's now 10.1. So Van Starkenberg is doing everything he can on these soft tyres, and Burlak is not yet requested to come in and get rid of them. Of course, it makes sense because the hard tyre looks like he's trying to split his stints into equal runs of about 24 laps. Of course, you think about it, how many 24s going to 70 to 71? Well, just about 3, because if you think about it, 3 24s are 72. There you go. Math lesson there from Scott Woodwiss at FSR. I thank you.
I think that Van Starkenberg and Burlak they'll probably be pitting around about the same time, to be honest. Because you think about it, because Van Starkenberg's tyres are going to go sometime soon, so the question is, how close can Van Starkenberg get to Burlak? Can he get within, because he was 5 seconds behind, can he get closer than that before he comes into the pits too? Because if he did, then it was a really, really good strategy and great idea from Precision in order to do that, because both these guys then are going to probably put the same tyres on and go to the end, because I would doubt that Van Starkenberg will want to do an extra stop.
I'm not sure. I think Van Starkenberg's quick, but I don't think he has that enough pace to close in the next couple of laps. Another 4 seconds or so. I think that's pretty much even out of Van Starkenberg's reach, I have to admit. So we'll have to wait and see. Yeah. I did see Luka Ostakovic pit as you can see Antonio Kolarec has now got a bit of a train behind him now, because now he's now got both Schutte and Nick Rowland right on his tail. Through Young Cow they go. And let's see what Rowland can do here, because he's now on the back of both of these. He'll get a double toe from both Kolarec and Schutte. See what happens here then. Down towards the pit straight. Zuti will have the run. Goes, dives in, and that's perfect because Roland now in the slipstream of Zuti. Which way will he go? Inside. Down towards the centre S. Beautiful stuff. Roland to the advantage, double toe down the pit straight. That is racecraft at its finest. That is textbook. I know that sounds cliche, but it just is. Roland now into P6, but for how much longer? Because Zuti will try and come back at him. Looks to the inside, tries to distract him, doesn't work. And Roland has done it. So look at that. Effectively, that doesn't really count with collarets, really. That's 2 places in the space of 1 move, really, in some cases. Great stuff.
That poor engine was screaming, hitting the limiter with the double slipstream that he had. And the thing was hitting the limiter by the end, but Roland just stuck with it and dumped one up the inside, and that was great pass from him. And Suti's still trying to attack him back, like you said, maybe trying to distract in the mirrors or something like that. See what happens. Still no movement from the Twister camp for Peter Burlak coming into the pits. I don't see the pit light on either, so Burlak's still happy right now, and the gap continues to come down to 8 something.
Yeah, we'll see what Vermeer, Nick Roland's teammate, has just pitted to make his, I assume, would be his final stop. And I'm guessing he'll be onto the hard tyres as well, so he's splitting his into equal stints as well. The gap is now down to, look at that, it's now under 8 seconds, it's now 7 to, and we think Burlak now seems to be short shifting. Now, is that for engine temperatures? Is that possibly for saving fuel? Is that for saving rear tyres? That could be intriguing. I wonder.
Interesting, because
yeah.
I mean, it can't be. You wouldn't think it'd be engine temperatures. He's led the whole race unless he had the damage that we described earlier on. But I haven't seen any smoke or any signs of that coming. And you would have thought that if that was the case, they would have short-shifted right from that incident. So I don't think it's that. Maybe it is the rear tyres. Maybe he's trying to go a little bit longer and pit even after Van Starkenburg again, and maybe put the softs on at the end, and Van Starkenburg will go to the hards. We're not sure. Twisters, they're thinking of something though. Somebody's light bulb has gone off in that camp and told Burlak to short shift.
If that's the case, it seems to be working at the moment because, again, no pit request light on just yet for Burlak. Nothing has been triggered, and we just keep our eyes peeled for what's going on. But again, because he's short shifting, Van Starkenburg actually appears to be taking out almost around about a second or so, or there or thereabouts, maybe 8/10 or so to a second out of Burlak per lap at the moment. So that's really quite phenomenal. Burlak crossed the line now, and let's see his lap time. It's now 1 minute, 12.7 compared to the lap which Van Starkenburg was about to put in. Much faster, I think. Cross the line, he comes 12.3, so another half a second off.
This is brilliant from Precision, because now Precision have found themselves in a much lighter period because they're catching Burlak now. They're going to get it down to around about that 5 seconds within the next 3-4 laps. So if Burlak pits now, Burlak's going to have to put the harder tyres on and go to the end of the race, in which case Van Starkenburg can pit after him and have better tyres to attack at the end of the race. If Burlak doesn't pit, this gap is just going to keep coming down. So if Van Starkenburg, the longer he can stay out, this is actually turning just that slightly, a little bit of hope for Precision.
This could be, potentially, obviously we know that they've got some very skilled tacticians in Precision. This could be, if it plays out, could potentially be saving Rob Van Starkenburg and Precision's championship here. And Precision, and it's got almost Twister on the ropes because they know they have to do something. At the moment, staying out is not doing him any favours right now because, of course, the longer Van Starkenburg pit request light is on now. So, how's this going to play out?
He'll get the undercut again, but yeah, he's going to pit, so he's going to have to go hards. He will get the undercut again, but that now switches the hands back into Twister because Twister knows now if they pit this next lap, they will have better tyres than Van Starkenburg and still a 7-second gap.
I think you're right. I think that 19 laps, even with a lighter fuel load, is too much to ask for soft tyres. So whether or not Van Starkenburg and Precision have risked it, I don't know. But well, he could. Yeah, he's got. I would say nothing to lose, but effectively he's got everything to lose because he's got the championship. So he's going to have to go for it and see exactly what he can do. Now, obviously, lap time wise, on his first flying lap will be an indication of exactly what he's doing. Burlak's pit request light on is not yet on, and we think now that Berlak has to go 5 more. If he goes 5 more laps, he can run the soft tyre. So that could be the plan, because of course if he comes in at the end of lap 57, then that will work perfectly, because that's 16 laps. I think with much lighter fuel load, that is doable. So Berlak then, maybe he was short shifting to save the tyres, so that he actually had something to run on once the Precision had pitted. Now the gap between the two cars now is 21, just over 21 seconds. So Van Starkenberg, if he can pull in a bit more on this gap at the moment, in this first stint, that's a 122.9 is his out lap. We'll now get a proper judgment of his pace now on this first flying lap. Let's see what he can pull out of the bag here.
Well, his last outlap was a 123.3, so I think he's on the softs, because he beat his last outlap from the last stint by 0.4 of a second. I think Van Starkenberg is going to go for this and put the softs on, and I don't know how he's going to do it, but then we would have a fight on the track. There's no doubt about that one. So Berlak now is again stuck in that situation. If that's the case, he has to know that 19 laps is way too much for the softs to go, in theory, but stranger things have happened.
Indeed, watching the battle between Juti and Roland, and oh goodness, that's not going to work. Surely no, it doesn't. Watching Juti and Roland, Juti just had a huge dive up the outside, trying to make it work, and just about wasn't able to make it through. So Roland now again defending down the Retro Aposta. And where Juti again darts out, puts himself into Roland's mirrors, just thinks, "Come on, Nick, I'm here." Just reminding him constantly.
That doesn't work. Not on Roland.
No. I think Roland's got a much wiser head on those shoulders, on those Mancunian shoulders, I should say, because he is from Manchester. And Roland now doing everything he can to hold on to P6. That'd be a great way to finish the season with P6. He's had some rotten luck in the past couple of races, and he would dearly love to finish off with a solid top 10 finish. Of course, it's hard for him not to gain that, because of course he is up there. He is, up there anyway. There's only 13 cars that finish, so from the back of the grid to sixth, back of a 13-car grid to sixth isn't too bad. But time and time again, Juti's holding him off, and Juti's almost thinks, "Oh God, I'm back in Monaco again, because I'm sick of the sightseeing of rear of Roland's car. You won't have to do much longer, because here comes Juti again up the outside." And again, Roland covers him off on the exit. First one, no, Juti back up the inside. Small piece of contact, but again, Roland just sticks his nose right across Juti's and holds on. And again, Juti weaving around, thinking, "Come on, Nick, get on with it."
Needs to stop doing whatever he's doing there and just stay behind Roland and get the slipstream and then attack Roland under braking.
Berlak is pitted. Berlak is exiting right now of the pit.
This is interesting now, because Van Starkenberg's lap time was 11.0. They're going to be a lot closer on the track.
10.9 in fact.
Here we go. Look how close they are on the track. Berlak has to go with the... Which tyres does he go with here? Because he has to go with the hard tyres. You would think the softs can't go to the end from here. That's too much to ask from them. When you're battling for the championship, 16 laps is a lot. And Van Starkenberg, I'm not sure which tyres he went with either.
Well, we'll wait and see. Either Berlak has gone safe and gone on the hard tyres, or he's risked it and he's stayed on a couple of laps, but he's going to go about 17 laps on those soft tyres. Now the gap at the moment is still 2.2 seconds, so it's levelling off. So softs maybe? Do we think softs? Because the gap is not coming down. It's stabilising at 2.2. So I think Berlak's on softs.
That's amazing, though, that you would do that, not knowing they have to know that they can make 16 if that's the case. This is just brilliant from Precision, because it's just put all of these different decisions and different voices in the heads of Twister. Do we go softs? Do we go hards? Do we go softs? And that's one of the things why they were leaving Berlak out for the longest time possible, is to just try and reduce the number of options that they can do here. Berlak is alongside Masculi, gets that done pretty easy. That's going to be deliberated for a long, long time what they do if Twister loses this race. Van Starkenberg now he can almost gamble. If Twister went on the softs, Van Starkenberg can almost come in and do another stop here and gamble and just risk that they won't make it to the end of the race. Because if Van Starkenberg does 5 more laps, comes in, gets the soft tyres, he will catch up that 5-second gap, and then it just comes down to whether Berlak is going to have to pit again or not.
I'm not sure. I think because Berlak is now starting to pull away. It's 2 points. He's already pulled in this lap and in almost these 2 laps. He's pulled a half a second gap. So I think possibly, I think at this point it's too much of an ask. I think Berlak is doing just about enough to cover this because he's pulling away half a second. It is definitely in the soft tyres, but it comes across the line now. There you got 10.7. It is the soft tyre. So I think Berlak and Twister. I think actually I've done enough. I think personally I've done enough, and I think possibly this is now Berlak's race to lose.
It is Berlak's race to lose. It's going to come down to whether he can do 16 laps on the softs. Van Starkenberg only did 11. So it's not, easily doable. It's doable, but I think Van Starkenberg, if I was him now, losing the pace to Peter Berlak, I would do a few more laps, gamble, come in, get the softs again, knowing you can definitely go to the end and hope that Berlak can't.
But you have to remember, of course, it's lighter fuel loads. So it is possible to go back next to 2-3 laps longer on the softs with a lighter car anyway. Of course, there's not as much weight anyway, because of course you're not carrying around as much weight, because of course it means it's a lighter car, means you'll be able to be less strain on the tyres. And the fact that the tyre wear is pretty high here, because it is a fairly high tyre wear circuit anyway, because of the long radius corners and the high speeds anyway. So that's the reason why it's such a tricky circuit for tyre wear. So this is going to be tough, I think. It's going to be quite intriguing. We're now coming to the end of lap 57, means we'll have 14 laps left to go here, and it's these 14 laps that will decide the World Series title. It either goes to Berlak currently, who has now a 3.5 second advantage, which is now 1.3 seconds more than the gap he had when he exited the pits, ahead of Van Starkenberg in second, who after all the shenanigans he's been involved in, finds himself almost 4 seconds away from potentially winning his World Championship. And he's slowly starting to slip away for the moment, unless a miracle befalls the precision and something happens to Berlak, whether or not his tyres go off, whether or not he makes a mistake, he makes contact with another lapped car, whatever. For the moment, I think Berlak, as you said, it is his race to lose, but I think effectively they're getting into a position where, at the moment, the pace that he's running, it might potentially be that Van Starkenberg is doing as best he can, but it might just not be enough.
Yep, it might come down to that at the end of the day. I think that Twister, I'd be amazed if they come in again. Like, even if they're running on absolute rocks, if the thing will move, you keep going round. Because, like I said, Van Starkenberg might have to... Doing 19 laps on these soft tyres, 19 is optimistic. So, after you only done 11... So we'll see whether they will come into the pits again. If they are going to pit again, then you want to do it sooner rather than later, because you'll get more laps on the undercut. So I think maybe we'll see whether he will pit. That would be lap 61, I would predict he will come into the pits if he does again RVS. And then we'll just see about Berlak. Roland did pit. He pitted, so he's lost to Suti, and he'll probably put the soft tyres on.
I've just seen Jaakko has posted OMG into the text channel for Mumble, so I'm quite intrigued to know what that means. Apparently Berlak nearly spun, apparently, for whatever it was, so well, that's intriguing. I didn't quite catch that. The gap is now 3.4 seconds or so, but I'm guessing that's probably somewhere. Now, you remember, but apparently into Desida de Largo, which is the end of the Reto Aposta, the back straight off of the first couple of corners. He did almost spin the car, so maybe he ran a little too wide, and that's what's caused him to now get behind Berlak. As now I think Roland, I can see in the back seat just in front of them, he's now battling with Collets for 7, and Roland will try and go around the outside, doing what Zuti couldn't do, and he has done it. Brilliant move again. Nick Roland was displaying some brilliant moves today in terms of overtaking, and he's doing a very grand job to round off his 2013 season. Should be very proud, and that should give him confidence into next season. Should he be doing a full campaign? Hopefully he has. He is, but I have to wait and see how it plays out, because he really is putting on a stellar show today from the back of the grid. Oh,
Jaakko has the heebie-jeebies. Jaakko's getting into this. He's texting that Berlak almost spun, like we said, and we'll see what happens. I don't think this race is decided by any means. This championship is not decided yet. It's definitely in the hands of Twister to make the decision. They have better tyres than Bob Van Starkenberg. I think at this point in the race, if Van Starkenberg comes into the pits and you are not sure whether Berlak can go to the end, then I think you have to bring him in immediately after to try and cover him off. If he does the exact same as Van Starkenberg, he should win this race.
But the problem is you have to face is that really, if Van Starkenberg does pit, he's got a gain that's something like 18, 19 seconds. For me, that's too much. I can't see Van Starkenberg gaining 19 seconds in the space of 10 laps. It won't happen.
But I'm just gambling on the fact that Berlak might have to pit again. You know, he wouldn't need to gain the 18 seconds. He would need to gain the 3 seconds, because it was just a gamble that Peter Berlak's tyres go completely off the cliff, because 16 is too much to ask on the softs. So I'm not sure exactly whether 16 is too much to ask, but at this point in the race, I think Precision just have to keep doing crazy things and hoping what happens, because Peter Berlak has this championship all but decided for Twister, and he's driven a great race so far.
Certainly has, and we're heading into the next one. And I did see this for a while. Nick Rowland drive-through penalty. Now what's that for? Because I haven't seen him. Was that speeding in the pit lane? I'm not sure what that's for. But Nick Rowland's been given a drive-through penalty, I can see on the screen. Now, I wonder if Jaakko can tell us what that is. It might be for blue flags, apparently. Which, well, to be fair, I'm not sure really Nick could help that, because Berlak actually, he spun. So, but Berlak half spun and then increased the gap, so that's not really Nick's fault on that part. So that, I don't know. But that's, he was battling with Collarets anyway, so... Rowland is in for his drive-through, and he'll drop now to 9th now, because Mascudi will go past, and that's not going to do him any do Nick any favours. His battle for 9th.
Seems harsh.
But because if you think because Rowland was the next car in front of Berlak, no question. But the fact that Berlak spun whilst there were blue flags, that's not Nick's problem. The fact that Berlak caught up again, yes. And he let him, and I think he was about to let him through, or at least holding up a tiny bit before he let him through, just to try and help out Rob. But to be fair, and this is not us being biased because he's an FSR commentator in any way. The fact of the matter is, Berlak spun. And yes, there were blue flags, but at the point when Berlak spun for a while, Nick was nowhere near Peter. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's a little bit of a harsh penalty, I think.
Yeah, I didn't really see Peter at any point get closer than 3 or 4 car lengths, so I wouldn't say he was impeding him in any way. And then he did move out of the way in a pretty good spot. So I don't know, maybe somebody got a bit of jitters there with the whole championship thing, thinking that Rowland would help Van Starkenberg. But when you're a lap down, obviously Rowland's not going to do that. He's going to move out of the way for the blue flags.
Zuti down Collarets into turn 1, and this time takes the inside line past Collarets and into P6. So effectively that's the position that Rowland was just occupying. So
still no word of Precision making a pit stop or anything like that. Looks like they're going to try and stay out. I'm not sure you're going to win the championship if doing that. I mean, it's a tiny hope anyway, even if you do come in and pit. But if you stay out, this is definitely not going to go Van Starkenberg's way unless Peter Berlak makes a mistake.
Just Sam Jones, the broadcaster, just clarifying that he was that Nick was in front by only a few car lengths for over half a lap. So if that was a real life race, it would have been a penalty, and Nick Rowland almost was clouted up the rear by Santiago Nizu. I think his tyres are outstaying their welcome because he's sliding all over the place a little bit. But Nick was very lucky not to get harpooned in the rear by Santiago Nizu. But thankfully they both managed to carry on without too much drama. And Nick is now into P9 and carrying on his pursuit of Eros Mascudi. Because remember, both Mascudi and Rowland are battling over P9 in the championship. And I think even though if Rowland was to pass Mascudi now, I don't think he would get 9th. I think it would still go to Mascudi, I believe. We'll have to wait and see. Collarets is now 7th, with Zuti now pulling away from 6th. And is it me, or is Van Starkenberg being closed in by Zuti here? Because yeah, I think Zuti's now losing to Van Starkenberg is losing time to Zuti behind. That's a lapped car, so.
Yeah, his tyres are starting to go off.
So this could be a bit of a problem here, and that could potentially be what seals the championship if Van Starkenberg has to pit again. But of course the question is still, of course, if Berlak has to pit. But then again, on the lighter fuel load, as we said, the extra 3 or 4 laps might not be such a problem, because effectively he'll be running on a car that's practically has almost no fuel in it, so that won't be too much of a strain, and you might just be able to get away with it. But it's a bit of a shame because Van Starkenberg's been in the wars today, and it's just part of it's not really been his fault. So, in fact, hardly any of it's been his fault. But it's you know, I think he could have had better luck. I think the whole Precision team could have had better luck. They've had some race wins, but the situations where you know, certain drivers could have won certain races, but you know, circumstances got in the way. Of course, there was back in Bahrain. Of course, there was the battle between Gosby and Van Starkenberg, and of course, Gosby got held up by a Pescara car in his pit box. As a result of that, it gave the win to Van Starkenberg. That was his first ever FSR victory of his career. And what's incredible is that he's now found himself at the last race, fighting for the championship. And there's the pit request light. There it goes. Van Starkenberg has to pit.
Needed to do that earlier because he's got no tyres left right now.
Yeah.
And he was never going to make 20 laps on these soft tyres, so I think he had to make that call earlier and just put it in the hands of where the Twister has to make a stop. But they're obviously doing the smart thing now. I was worried they were just going to leave him out because right now I don't see how he's going to win the championship. I don't even see how he's going to get to the end of the race on these tyres. So he's got to come in. He's got to get some new tyres. Plus, I mean, Suti is right on the back of him. You don't want to take him out. So I think smart decision here for them to bring in. Just probably a little bit too late. I think you need to do it with about 10 laps to go. And there goes Van Starkenberg into the pits.
It's a shame to see it, but Van Starkenberg, effectively, that is him in many ways surrendering the championship because those soft tyres, that gamble just hasn't paid off. And Van Starkenberg is in for another set of soft tyres at the end of lap 65. He was the informed man. He took victories in Singapore and Abu Dhabi, as well as 2 more throughout the season, but at the end of the day, it just doesn't seem to be his day or his championship this year. But credit to him, he said he put on a fantastic performance and taken the fight to his more experienced teammate Martin Gosby, who of course is not here today, and neither is Edouard Menorca or any other Twister racing driver. And the precision cars have, of course, Rob has had some support in the form of the 2 GT Omega cars, GT Omegas of Cyril Vermeer and Nick Rowland, who himself are running in 3rd and 8th respectively, 3rd and 9th, sorry, respectively. But here we.
So Twister then, if they're going to try and cover off Van Starkenberg, if they're not confident of getting to the end of the race, have to pit this lap for soft tyres, and they do not. So Twister is going to the end of the race on these tyres. They only need to do another 5 laps, which is plenty doable. So Peter Burlak knows that he has 20-second gap and 5 laps. He can back the car way off and make sure that he does not have to come into the pits, because obviously that would cost him the championship.
Well, of course, you know, it's never over until it's over, until he sees that checkered flag, so he cannot get complacent in these last 5 laps. He has to make sure he just, as you said, keeps the car on the black stuff and just brings it home. And it will be signed, sealed and delivered.
Roland on Masciuli. Masciuli goes to the inside. Roland right to the outside. Gets that pass done nice and easy. So Roland in P8.
He's good at that outside pass, isn't he? Done it quite a few times today, and every single time it seems to have been pulled off to perfection. So great job once again. And these two, I think, will be probably dueling to the flag. These two have raced against each other before in SRZ. More contact, and that was a bit messy. Masciuli just tried to force up the inside. Roland, I think, had his more than half his car in front. Oh, and that could have compromised it. Oh, how ironic's that? Rob Van Starkenberg lapping both cars has just compromised Nick Rowland and actually let Masciuli back through. And now it's let also Santiago Niza into the battle as well. So Rowland's really found himself in a pickle here. Well, he'll get the top up the pit straight once again on his team on Masciuli, and here he comes again to the inside. Down the pit straight, what's Niza going to do? He'll look on. Oh, that was close. I thought he was going to go into the pit wall for a second. But Roland gets the job done before turn 1. Masciuli diving back up the inside. Roland gives him contact, and Santiago Niza, that was silly.
Yeah, he left his nose in.
It wasn't biased. I'm sorry, that wasn't meant to be biased at all. That was just silly driving from Niza. And Roland back up his own. More contact.
What's going on here? What is going on?
That was Masciuli. Well, you can see Roland was trying to turn back onto the black stuff. That's only because Masciuli wasn't giving him any room at all. So
that was Masciuli. Definitely, that was not allowed from Masciuli. Roland was up alongside on the outside, and Masciuli just pulled him over. And this is just getting out of hand now. Everybody needs to just calm down and realize here, this is the best sim races on the planet, and you cannot do that. That was a lot worse than Niza. Niza just left his nose in when he shouldn't have. He got a little bit excited, but Masciuli on the straight. What is he doing?
I'm pretty sure there'll be some choice words in that from behind that steering wheel from Nick Rowan. I'm pretty sure he's got a voice when he needs it. Of course, he uses it brilliantly in the FSR World Championship commentary, which of course I'll be alongside him for the final time this season for the World Championship. We'll see if Bono Woodwiss can wrap up Another dominant World Championship year with another victory. And of course, it looks though with I think if Jeffrey Rietveld is racing tomorrow, which I'm not sure if he is, he will be doing that. So now I think once again, Roland has got past Mascudi this time, and it looks like he's got enough. He's done it in such a fashion that Mascudi will not be coming back at him this time. So at least he's going to be able to get it done and not be bothered too much on this occasion. So.
Burlak's tyres, they are going off. He's dropped to, his lap times have definitely been getting slower and slower, but not to the point where you have to do anything crazy or come into the pits. So
no.
Definitely Twister have this in the bag. The tyres will not be at their freshest, but they look like they're going to pull this off here.
Yeah, penultimate lap and heading up towards the pit straight once again. And I'm pretty sure the Twister guys will be readying the celebrations, and there'll be, if there was such a thing as a garage with Twister Racing mechanics in there, they'll be gathering together and they'll be heading towards the pit wall pretty soon, if that's such a thing existed, because they'll be heading up there to celebrate bringing their driver home. And Twister have been, of course, they won the World Trophy last year, but in the higher categories they've had a bit of a drought in terms of championships they've won. Of course, Precision have won the World Series and the World Series the past 3 years, and the World Championship the past 4 years. And Twister have kind of been off the radar in terms of success. They used to be pretty strong and won races. I remember back early in 2010 they had the likes of Domagoj Malajic, a further Croatian driver, and also the legendary Bruno Marquez, who of course Woodwiss surpassed his championship mark with 4 championships this year in Singapore. Well, but as he comes to the final lap, I guess we can sum it up, and what a champ season it's been. And I guess really, at the end of the day, you have to admit the better man has won it, because Peter Belak has not put a foot wrong. A couple of errors, shaky errors, but it starts the final lap. It's been an incredible year, and I think this guy has shown some fantastic form in the second half of the season, and I think you have to say, it's not over yet, but for the moment, job well done.
Yep, just to bring it home, let's stay on board for this final lap of the championship with Peter Burlak. We're going to come through the end of the first sector. Just got to keep it on the black stuff. This is the easiest lap you've done all year. You have a 12-second lap gap advantage, so as long as you put in a 120 here, that will be enough to take it. And Burlak taking it nice and easy through this middle sector. Don't want to get any mistakes or give anybody a sniff. And now you can start celebrating. You can start to sniff the final sector at Brazil. Now is time to celebrate.
Absolutely. Well, he's taken 5 victories this season. He's about to make it 6. And he's going to do it at the time that counts. One more corner. This man dominated World Trophy last year. He heads up the hill. He can almost push it up here from here. The Twister counts will be going absolutely mad. David Dominguez will be going mad. Through the final corner, Peter Belak wins the Brazilian Grand Prix, and with it the 2013 Thrustmaster Formula Sim Racing World Series Championship. He has done it. Incredible job. Second place, valiant effort. They'll be level on points, but Belak will take it as more wins. Commiserations, Rob van Starkenburg. He tried his best, but second place will have to suffice. And third place, as Peter Belak probably breaks the front wing off that car as he starts doing donuts, and rightfully so this time. Unlike in F1, he won't get penalised like Vettel.
Zuti ruined it.
Oh, Zuti again. The third place, Cyril Verbuehler. Well-earned podium for his final race in the season. And fourth place, what a drive, David Franco. Fourth place. Positive Sim Racing will really take that into the off-season in 2014. David Franco comes home in 4th. Solid points. That is actually 25 points he'll bring home. And the rest of the guys will come through. Zuti's already finished. And the rest of the cars are coming through to finish the race here. I think the one that's left is just Alex Diaz. Last car across the line. He'll make it. P5 and 20 points. But of course, the man of the moment we have to focus on is Peter Burlak. And the headline is, of course, he's done it. Peter Burlak is your 2013 Thrustmaster Formula Sim Racing World Series champion. I think you have to say, to be fair, of course, there was contact in the first corner. There was the incident with, of course, with Adrian Rodriguez and a few other bits and pieces going on throughout that race. But in the end, I think Van Starkenburg, the luck of the draw just wasn't with him. And it certainly was with Burlak, because he's fought hard in the second half of the season to claw himself into a championship winning position. And Rob is gracious in defeat. He says congratulations to Peter in the chat, and as does everyone, and rightfully so. That is a man who he's pressed him hard, but is magnanimous in defeat.
Yep, and that's what it's all about. You give everything you can on the track, and then after the race is over, you just admit that Peter is definitely deserving of this championship. Van Starkenburg didn't go well for him today. He had the lead coming into this round, but he knew that he still had to win this race, and it was a fantastic end to the season as a two-way duel between these two guys. And I can definitely see that Jaakko needs a drink after this one to calm himself down, because he was getting involved. And Peter Burlak is the 2013 World Series champion. Congratulations to him and Twister from everybody here in the commentary booth.
Absolutely, I couldn't echo that even more. Actually, Van Starkenburg was confirming he did get damage from Rodriguez, so that was something he did. Now, apparently, Peter Burlak, someone tapped him out of turn 1. It must have been at the start. He doesn't know who it was. We know there was contact between both Van Starkenburg and Burlak, but it was intriguing to see how that happened. That was could have been a game changer. If one of those two had gone around, that could have blown it wide open. It would have been Vettel in Brazil last year all over again, wouldn't it?
It would have, and that's. I thought we were going to get that when we saw the crash at turn 1 between the two guys. I was like, really? We're going to settle the championship here at turn 1? But the championship got settled during the whole race distance, so that's great to see.
So, quickly, we'll run down the final results then, and it is Peter Burlak, your new champion for 2013 in the World Series, takes the win by some 11... Oh, hold on, if I can see it, I can't even see it on my screen thing. I think about 11 seconds from Rob Van Starkenburg. And as you said, these guys, how close do you want it? They will finish the season level on points. But due to the fact that Burlak took 6 wins to Van Starkenburg's 4, the Croatian is the champion. Cyril Verbier gets 3rd place, a podium on his in the final race of the season. That is well deserved. And Positive Sim Racing will be very, very pleased to get 3 of their 4 cars home. They would have liked Adrian Rodriguez to be in there. Who knows where he could have been. But still, David Franco 4th for Positive Sim Racing team. And Alex Diaz for PSR in 5th. Zoltan Schutte is 6th. With 7th place going to Antonio Colletts. Nick Rolo manages 8th, despite starting from the back of the grid. So solid points for him. And I think he did actually finish at 10th. So I think that is enough points for him to finish 9th in the standings. So congratulations to Nick. I think he has got just enough points he needs. Santiago Nizia was 9th. Heros Mascudi in 10th. I think Post Mascudi might have been given a late race drive-through penalty for his antics there, pushing Rowan onto the grass. And then the cars that finished outside the top 10, but still scoring points, was only one, Luka Ostakovic in 11th place. The 2 retirements we had were Todor Vasilev for the Crown 7 Net Retro Edition, and of course the possibly game-changing accident for Adrian Rodriguez after he led early on, and what could have been was really intriguing. And that's it. That is the end of one championship, at least in the FSR. It's not over just yet, because we still have 2 more races left to go here at Interlagos to round out the year for 2013 in FSR. Of course, we have the World Trophy Championship to settle as well. Ben Tustin looks as though he's pretty much guaranteed to claim that one, unless he has already. I haven't kept track of World Trophy, my bad. But whether or not he has or not, the last race of the season will be tomorrow at 11:30 GMT. That counts for UK as well, of course, because the clocks went back a couple of weeks ago. And then the season finale, it will be the final race of the 2013 World Championship, the Brazilian Grand Prix. Can Bono Ruiz round out his record-breaking fourth year in a row, 4th championship win in a row, with another victory to try and capitalise one. Can anyone else try and topple him? Jeffrey Rietfeld just managed to close him out in the last couple of laps in Abu Dhabi. Will he get the same again? Will he be here? Who knows? But I guess to round off, Matt, final thoughts. You haven't been here for all the races, but still, for the race you have been and what you have seen, what a fantastic year, and what a way to finish our first championship in 2013.
It was a great two-way duel that ended on 0 points between them. I mean, you can't ask for more than that. When the championship goes down to the tiebreakers, then it usually means it was a good fight. And it was a fair fight. There was a little bit of pushing here and there, but overall it was a fair fight done on the track. And I think that both these guys will gain a lot of respect from each other for that, and they will take it forward to the World Championship, where both of these guys are destined to be. And because you can see the gap that they had over great drivers like Verdmore, and you see the gap that these guys had over them. These two definitely destined for success in the World Championship, and we'll look forward to seeing that tomorrow. And final thought of the day, David Franco, driver of the day for me, but the championship, Peter Burlak.
Absolutely, and I think before we quickly go, I want to say some thanks, of course, because it's my last broadcast. I'll be running lead comms at least for this season, so I want to give my thanks, of course, to everyone at FSR already. It's something I'll probably reiterate tomorrow in the World Championship broadcast at the end, but I want to say my personal thanks for the World Series, at least, to Lewis McGlader, of course, is moving on, so hopefully we'll stay friends, of course, and talk, but good on you, Lewis. You've been a fantastic co-commentator for me for the races I've been together with you, and also for the 2 World Championship races you have as well. Also, I want to say thanks, of course, to Matt as well, and also to James Tucker, who was in the commentary box also, and also to our camera guys too, of course, to Jaakko Mikkonen, and also, of course, to, I think also Renault Room as well, and of course, Sam Jones, our broadcast director, and of course all the guys who look after everything. So John Eric Saxon, of course, has been the race director for World Series, and all the other guys behind the scenes. Of course, you've got Yanis Kunkel, who's the president. Of course, you've got people like David Dominguez in the background, Dennis Hurl, Mika Pumalainen, who do all the work behind the scenes for FSR. FSR, I'll admit, some people do give it stick, but at the end of the day, these guys do work hard to put on a very professional R-Factor Sim Racing League, and they should be credited because they do try and do the best job that they can with the resources that they have, and that's why it's one of, if not the most respected R-Factor League in the sim racing community. And I want to say my personal thanks because they, of course, have been fantastic to me over the past couple of years, and I'll be sure to continue in 2014 for as long as I can help it. So, from myself, Scott Woodwiss, and from Matt Hartley, thank you very much for watching. That is the end of the World Series, of course, and we have a champion. Tune in tomorrow at 11:30 GMT for the World Trophy, and from 4:15 in the afternoon, no, 4:15 in the afternoon, sorry, for the World Championship. But until then, we have our second champion of the year, and it is Peter Burlak for Twister Racing. He wins the Brazilian Grand Prix, and he is your 2013 Thrustmaster Formula Sim Racing World Series champion. Bye for now.